welcome back, everyone, to this Friday night coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022, cruising to the Capitol. I'm Rick Walker with Maverick News and Maverick Multimedia, and I'm here with my co-host
Brenden Kennedy of the Flow of Discourse podcast. It's great to be here, Rick. How are you today?
I'm okay. How are you?
Hanging in there. It's Friday.
I'm actually a little worried, to be honest. Worried about everything going on. Worried about what we're seeing in Ottawa. Worried that things might escalate. Worried about the statements from Ottawa's police chief today. A little less worried about what's going to happen in Toronto. I watched the news conference from Toronto's police chief and Toronto Mayor John Tory. I thought the tone there was a little more even. But in Ottawa, I was hearing things that made my eyes kind of open wide, and the tone made me a little uneasy, very uneasy. And we're going to play some of that news conference for you and share that with you. And I think when you hear some of the words that the police chief used, you might share my concerns as well. Did you take in any of that today, Brenden? Did you get a chance to hear any of it? Any thoughts before we roll some of this for the folks at home?
It's a lot of doom and gloom. I only got to catch like about 10 minutes of it while I was getting some dishes and stuff together. As far as that, it is pretty doom and gloom, but I would rather play the clip and then we'll give the breakdown from there.
Okay, we also have a special guest joining us from Freedom Central Canada later in the newscast. They have somebody on the ground there in Ottawa who is keeping tabs on things. They've been producing a lot of their own videos, and they're also kind of tuned into what's going on out in Alberta, and they're going to share some of their observations, some of their thoughts. They've been there throughout this protest in Ottawa, so I'm really looking forward to getting their perspective on this as well. They have a pretty good reporter who's been doing some good work for them, and they have a lot of raw video that they've been running on their Facebook page and social media platforms as well. So that's coming up very shortly. And we have Carla Olson joining us later in the broadcast as well tonight. She's our eyes and ears in Ottawa. She's been collecting video and sharing that with us and giving us daily recaps to give us a perspective on the mood there, the atmosphere, and she has a pretty good bead on, what the protesters are saying, what they're doing. She's got a good broad overview coming up for us.
No, we've been very blessed to have Carla and everything she's been doing. And that she has something new to bring to the table every day because the situation in Ottawa is changing like every day, right? So,
yes. So yeah, let me just cue up this clip from the news conference in Ottawa today. It'll just take me a moment to find the right one here for you folks because we have a bunch of things lined up. Here we go. Okay. So here's Ottawa's police chief. And this was this morning, so it's not live, but this is something that I think people need to tune into because the tone in Ottawa is changing. They're bringing in 150 additional police officers as of today, and probably even more over the weekend. And they are taking a much harder line on this. And I think you're going to see things change over the weekend. Well, let's just let the police chief speak for himself at this point.
Thank everybody for coming this morning. Ottawa residents are frustrated and they are angry. They have every right to be. Their lives continue to be severely impacted by unlawful and unsafe events in the city streets, the downtown core, and the surrounding neighborhoods. This is unacceptable.
The volume is really low, Rick. Can it go higher?
Begun implementing a new surge and contain strategy in our downtown core based on lessons learned over the last operating cycle of the demonstrations and new intelligence gathered literally in the last 24 hours. There are three parts to this new strategy. Number one, we're deploying a surge of police officers in the downtown and the immediate neighborhoods. There will be approximately 150 additional officers dedicated to only patrolling and addressing unlawful, threatening conduct in the most impacted neighborhoods, specifically Centertown, Lower Town, and the Byward Market. This surge will include working with our city and NCR official partners to prevent unlawful and unsafe use of public spaces by demonstrators. These officers and our partners will be focused on illegal activity associated with the demonstrators. This surge will deliver a clear message to the demonstrators: the lawlessness must end. The focus of these officers will be on acts of mischief, hate, harassment, intimidation, and other threatening behaviors. The second part of the strategy will be an expansion of the hardening of the perimeter in the demonstration red zone, the immediate area of Wellington Street in front of the Parliament buildings. We will be further isolating and containing the demonstration in that red zone. The Ottawa Police Service, the City of Ottawa, and our partners will be utilizing concrete barriers, heavy equipment barricades to create no-access roadways throughout the downtown core. This includes considerations around the closing of bridges, highway off-ramps, and other roadways. Incoming protester vehicles today and throughout the weekend will be directed to designated parking zones outside of the downtown core. Illegal parking by demonstrators will result in bylaw enforcement, removal, and impound if necessary. Again, interprovincial bridges, highway off-ramps, and roads will be closed as needed as we manage and monitor the influx of vehicles and the egress of vehicles from the core. The third part of the strategy: enhanced intelligence and investigation operations. We now have secured fully national, provincial, and local intelligence agencies. We have increased ability to identify and target protesters and supporters of protesters who are funding and enabling unlawful and harmful activity by the protesters themselves. Investigative evidence gathering teams are collecting financial, digital, vehicle registration, driver identification, insurance status, and other related evidence that will be used in prosecutions. Every unlawful act, including traffic and insurance violations, will be fully pursued, regardless of the origin, at any time in the future. The primary focus of each of these measures will be on the unlawful behavior connected to the ongoing demonstrations. This includes parallel and counter demonstrations. We strongly urge all demonstrators and those engaging with the demonstrators to act lawfully, peacefully, and respectfully. The hatred, the violence, the illegal acts that Ottawa residents and businesses have endured over the last week is unacceptable in any circumstance. The Ottawa Police Service and the City of Ottawa are bringing significantly greater resources to restore order, hold offenders to account, and protect our neighborhoods. The current demonstration in the Parliamentary Precinct Red Zone remains unresolved despite significant successes in reducing the number of trucks and demonstrators while preventing riots, injuries, or deaths. We take no solace in these operational successes to date. Our goal is to end the demonstration. The demonstrators in the red zone area remain highly organized, well-funded, extremely committed to resisting all attempts to end the demonstration safely. This remains, as it was from the beginning, an increasingly volatile and increasingly dangerous demonstration. The Ottawa Police Service continues to work with the national security agencies, the RCMP, the OPP, and other municipal police agencies. Over the last 48 hours, we've also been able to engage all three levels of government to effect a safe, timely, and lawful end to this unlawful and unacceptably dangerous demonstration. Public safety remains paramount, as does our commitment to work with all levels of government and all parts of civil society to bring this demonstration to an end. In closing, I want to reiterate what Ottawa residents have endured, what Ottawa businesses have endured, what our own service members and our partners have endured over the last week is unacceptable. And we have learned from our experience. We have gathered new evidence. We have secured new allies, and we're implementing new measures to bring this demonstration to an end. Thank you very much. I'd be pleased to take any questions you may have at this time.
Good morning, Chief. Marika Walsh with the Globe and Mail. I'd like to go broad first and talk about trust. Residents in Ottawa feel that the police have broken the trust. They see the police helping protesters, direct them to where they should be bringing their fuel cans of jerry cans, and they see propane tanks stockpiled near the canal, whereas the police in the past and enforcement in the past has meant that things like a lemonade stand couldn't continue. So how do you speak to residents? How do you explain and how do you ensure that trust is rebuilt now when they think that you have abandoned them?
Thank you very much for your question. And again, I take great empathy with those that have endured unacceptable violations of their ability to live and raise their families and conduct their businesses in this city, in their neighborhoods, particularly during this time, almost 2 full years into a global pandemic, with everything that everybody has suffered and endured. I have met with those business owners. I have met with the residents. I've patrolled in these streets, and I can see plainly and understand clearly the depth of frustration that they have in the police service and in society as a whole to what they find here happening today. We are doing everything we possibly can to keep them safe. We are doing more and more each day as we learn and understand the nature of this demonstration, how it is supported, funded, sustained, and committed to continuing on despite best efforts by policing partners here and across the country. We're absolutely committed to bringing this demonstration to an end. We've implemented major new efforts, 150 new officers based on the intelligence will be applied in those 3 neighborhoods most impacted, where that trust has been most impacted. 24 hours a day over the next 4 days coming through this weekend, those officers will be focused on enforcement, bringing to order and bringing to justice those who've committed disorder and unlawful acts, to support those residents and support those businesses and rebuild that shaken trust. But it will take more than the efforts of our officers to bring this demonstration to an end. And we have gathered allies and supports from all 3 levels of policing and public safety and all 3 levels of government. We are implementing new measures, and we are encouraged by the new measures that others in our ally group are considering and implementing right now as well.
And one question. Okay, thank you. For now.
Chief Slowey, Stéphane Leclerc, Radio Canada. Just wondering, does that mean, because you talk about enforcing bylaw, towing and impounding vehicles, what about the trucks on Wellington? Does that mean that you're going to start today removing trucks from that road and area?
Thank you very much for your question, sir. We have been enforcing the bylaws, the Provincial Offences Act, the Criminal Code. We've been reducing the number of trucks in the entire city of Ottawa, and particularly in the downtown core, including in the red zone of Wellington. The number of protesters have dropped off significantly. The number of trucks in the red zone and the surrounding neighborhoods have dropped off significantly. People have been arrested and charged. Offenses have been dealt with through bylaw and provincial statutes. Evidence is being gathered. Investigations are ongoing, including the criminal investigation to the desecration of the cenotaph. That has been going on since the beginning of this demonstration and will continue on. Certainly the criminal code investigations will continue on in perpetuity. There is no statute of limitations on criminal investigations until we bring those who committed those criminal acts to justice. In regards to a timeline for when we'll remove all aspects of this demonstration, including the trucks in the red zone, I do not have a timeline now, but as I've stated before, every option is on the table. Thank you for your question, sir.
Good morning, Chief. Natalie Van Roy from CTV Ottawa. Vulnerable people feel abandoned and harassed in their own city. How did you let the protesters gain so much control?
Thank you very much for your question. I've had the opportunity in my patrols over the last week to speak with some of those vulnerable people. I can tell you it's heartbreaking. In fact, as I was parked right out front of this police station on a board briefing with my board chair in regards to where we were in the early part of the week, two members who live in the YMCA just on the other side of this building came by in their wheelchairs, both of them elderly, both of them clearly struggling with a range of disabilities, doing their own shopping in sub-zero temperatures. They stopped to speak with me. They expressed their frustration and their fear. They also expressed their understanding for the incredibly difficult job that we're doing and for the work that we've done to support them thus far. I understand there is a wide range of opinions around the efficacy of our efforts to date, but we've done absolutely the best we can to keep this city safe, to keep residents like that safe, the most marginalized, often the most racialized communities as safe as we can. We need to do better. We're committed to doing better. We now have more intelligence and allies to do better, and we're implementing more and better plans. 150 officers in these neighborhoods to support people like those two people I spoke about. 150 officers 24/7 over the next 4 days. No matter how many trucks come into this town, those officers will remain dedicated to keeping those vulnerable members as safe as they can be and addressing unlawful and unacceptable behavior in their neighborhoods until the end of these demonstrations. That is my commitment here today. We will step up our intelligence and investigation efforts. We will hold to account not just the demonstrators, but those that fund and enable the demonstrators in any way. And we will have a hardened plan for the weekend's demonstrations, including concrete barriers, expanding that red zone, and locking down bridges, highways, and major thoroughfares to reduce the ability of vehicles and trucks to come in, and when they come in, to target them, ticket them, and remove them as best we can. Thank you very much for your question.
Chief Mackenzie Gray with CTV National News. You've spoken previously about how you think some of the protesters have guns. Is the Ottawa Police not willing to move into the protesters because you think if you do, things will turn violent?
Thank you very much for your question. To be clear, we have already made arrests involving individuals who were intending to and were bringing firearms to the nation's capital to be involved directly or indirectly in the protests. Through our partners across the country, we were able to identify one individual and interdict him before he was able to get close to the city. A firearm was seized, charges were laid, and he will face full prosecution, including potential jail time. That remains for anybody in this city or in this country or in any other country that intends to bring a firearm to a lawful protest, to engage in unlawful activity in any way. Do not bring weapons, do not bring firearms, do not come here to cause harm, do not come here to break the law. You will be held to account.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Hi, Craig Lord from Global News. Can you clarify then, do you currently have intelligence that there are restricted firearms planned to be in the city this weekend when the protesters come?
I'm going to invite Deputy Chief Bell to provide that intelligence update for you.
Thank you very much for the question. In terms of intelligence that we have for this weekend, we are receiving information, have been tracking and working with our partners. We're anticipating between 300 to 400 trucks attempting to enter to engage in the demonstration this weekend. We also have information that indicates that there will be between 1,000 and 2,000 foot participants who will join the area of the demonstration, as well as up to 1,000 counter protesters who have indicated a desire to come down to the area. In terms of specific intelligence that we have relating to weapons and firearms, we continue to update the city in terms of public safety advisories and conduct investigations in any sort of weapons or threat related information that we receive. Thanks for the question.
And the last question.
Hi, Chief. It's Joanne Canello from CBC News. Chief, I'm sure a lot of people are very happy to hear there are efforts being made to stop trucks coming into the core. People have asked why that didn't happen last weekend. You've told us that was impossible, both through the charter and logistically. Like, what's changed?
Joanne, thank you very much for the question. We cannot block off the entire city. We cannot stop anybody that wants to bring a vehicle or a conveyance into the city or walk into the city. This is the nation's capital. It's a democratic society, and we have a charter of rights, all of which you've stated. We did block roads. We did reduce access. We did create zones where people could park vehicles outside of the core. But the number of people, the number of vehicles, and the number of access and egress points in the city, this is the largest geographic city in the country, the second largest geographic city in North America. There is no way a police service of our size or any size could block off the entire city and stop that, even if it was legal. We're taking more steps this week. Thank you very much. We're taking more steps this week. I'm going to invite Deputy Chief Trish Ferguson to speak about the traffic plan and the hardening of the downtown core. There will be more closures. It will create more problems and traffic chaos for healthcare workers, emergency service providers, city workers, business owners, and people that want to transverse through the city. There will be a price to pay for higher security footprint. That is what we're trying to balance on a constant basis. I'll invite Deputy Chief Ferguson to add her comments.
Before you go, I just want to say, I didn't ask about the whole city. Of course, you can't bring every part in, but how come they weren't stopped trucks from coming into the core where they are now and getting hard and being difficult to remove them now?
Good morning. Bon matin à tous et à toutes. Thank you. I'll begin comments in French and then we'll switch to English. En fin de semaine dernière,
Okay.
plus de 8000 personnes et des milliers de camions ont pris part à la manifestation dans le centre-ville. Nous sommes parvenus à considérablement réduire ce nombre par des mesures coercitives.
So here's the thing. It's like, let me just, I need to turn this audio down while we chat. So police are almost declaring war on the truckers. And there is more to this news conference as it went on. The chief also went on to say that they had prevented a January 6th style incident where he didn't use the word insurrection, but he did compare it to January 6th. And he said that they've prevented that from happening. I don't know how you know that you've done that, but okay. The language here is inflammatory. Police in any city in Canada, their primary focus must be on safety. And that is what he's talking about here and has been talking about. That's entirely appropriate. The issue I have is when he says that their goal is to end the protest. When police take that position, they're taking a political position. They've become a tool of the government. They're taking a side. That's when things potentially, I think, here could get out of hand, because that's when the police start taking it to the protesters. And the primary concern that the police service needs to have here is simply public safety. It's not the police chief's job to decide if a protest should end. It's not the job of a police officer to decide if a protest should end. That's not his job. It's not appropriate. Yes, they have the authority to enforce laws. He's saying this is there are unlawful protesters down there. The protest itself is not unlawful. Are there unlawful things going on? I suppose you could say that parking a truck improperly on the street is unlawful, and you can ticket that. If you don't have a permit to stage a public protest, I suppose you could say that's unlawful. So it depends on how far you want to take these things. If you're transporting fuel inappropriately, I suppose you could say that's unlawful. If you're driving the wrong way down a one-way street, that could be unlawful. If they enforce those laws and in an effort to keep people safe, I suppose that might be appropriate. At the same time, police in Canada, generally throughout history, have had the ability to exercise a lot of discretion. They've had a lot of latitude to do that, and always with the interest of public safety in mind. When police take this tone, it becomes confrontational. Everything we have shown our viewers so far from the nation's capital over the course of this protest has shown that this has been a completely peaceful demonstration. The language that you're hearing from the mainstream media asking these questions, the language that you're hearing from the senior officers with the Ottawa Police Service here is suggestive. It's predictive. It's using words like could be violent or if someone brings a gun. They say they've arrested someone with a gun before they got to the demonstration.
I have a point I want to make about that, if I can interject just for a second. So I was just taking a look at the Ottawa Police website when I heard him say that. Every police force across Canada, whenever they have a firearms arrest, always has a press release about it with pictures of what they took off the person. So that's a bit of that concerns me that you don't see that, because they love to show the community, oh, look what we did. We saved you from this firearm and this, that, and the other thing. So it makes me question the validity of the claim entirely. Is he inflammatory? I think he's been very inflammatory with what he said throughout that whole thing. But I don't think what he's counting on, like we've seen in Alberta with the RCMP, who used the exact same language and had publicly stated that the Alberta border blocking was an unlawful protest and that the RCMP were going to go in and yank everybody out of there, and they simply couldn't. Their tensions are growing. The city of Ottawa is fed up. I agree with that. But what are they going to do? Like, are they going to go in there and start violently taking things out? Like, this whole thing is already ostracized publicly across Canada in a very disgusting way. And we've seen the vibe down there. We have people who know what the vibe down there is. And it's been essentially like a winter Woodstock from what we've seen. But there's a lot of what ifs. And the what ifs that people are talking about with the military has already told Ottawa police to take a hike. Like, they're not doing anything with it. If something bad...
Sort of, and I did see another statement about that. It's not happening right now. But, Brenden, if they get orders from Ottawa, they go. It's really that simple. So, and make no mistake, the reason we're hearing this tone from the police chief today is because he's getting pressure from the Prime Minister's office, probably the Premier's office, definitely from the Mayor, who's also getting pressure from senior levels of government, and the Mayor's a Liberal. So they're using, they want the cops to go in there and clean these guys out. They want this thing to end, and they're going to use bylaws and the Highway Traffic Act and nuisance laws and anything they can throw at people down there to start handing out tickets and put pressure on these protesters, and that's what's going down. Let's go back to the police chief for a moment here.
Sure.
Let's see if I can bring up his audio again.
On les voit qui construisent proche de l'hôtel de ville là, dans le fond, des structures de bas là, pour distribuer la nourriture et tout. Là. Qu'est-ce que la police va faire à ce sujet-là? Est-ce que c'est légal pour eux de s'installer à ce point-là? Et qu'est-ce que vous prévoyez justement faire là, pour les empêcher de
And the
se
police
rendre à
chief
ces
has
situations-là?
talked too about possibly bringing in the military, saying there may be no municipal solution to this.
Nous tentons à adresser
I thought he was going to speak again at this point in the clip, but apparently not. I'll monitor that, and it might be appropriate to bring him back up again as we'd have this discussion further.
Yeah, I do want to hear what you had stated about.
Here we go.
I do want to. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Facilitating, for example, the transport of jerry cans of fuel.
They want to know why the police have allowed them to bring fuel into the truckers.
Of fuel, which is dangerous, but also allows the protesters to pardon and to stay, appears to be condoned by the police.
Yep, thank you very much. This has been, as I've said many times, and as my colleagues across the country, who
I don't know how you're getting that,
managing
Fred.
similar
I don't
demonstrations,
get that at
nothing
all.
in terms of the size and the scale so far to date. We'll see what happens in the GTA on the weekend. This is an unprecedented and unusual set of circumstances. The level of organization, funding, commitment, communication. We have found at least 2 operation centers right here in the city. There are multiple operation centers across the country and internationally. Funding is coming in locally, nationally, and internationally. Supports, including legal advice, logistics support, and yes, fuel support, are coming in from all sectors and all sides. We have done absolutely our best to ensure that we cut off such supports. We isolate and contain the demonstration to the footprint that it is. We've managed to reduce that footprint over the last week, and we'll do everything we can, including the efforts you just heard from my deputies, to continue to do that. There is no facilitation of food, water, fuel, logistics, or funding by any member of this police service or any other police service that I am aware of. Let me repeat. There is no supply of food, water, fuel, logistics, or anything else that relates to enabling this demonstration by any member of the Ottawa Police Service or any other police service that I am aware of. Should that information come to me, you can be clear, as Chief of Police in this service, I will conduct a full investigation. I will use the full extent of the Police Service Act and, if relevant, the criminal code to pursue charges against such a member who would do that. Hopefully that answers the question.
Chief, outside of you and the mayor, I can't find anyone in the city who describes what the police has done so far as a success. There's been people counter-protesting outside of this police station right here at different points in time. So why should those counter-protesters and why should the million residents of this city think that the new measures that you're going to do today are going to change anything and that the outcomes will be any different than what they've seen before?
Thank you very much for your question. Again, I just want to reinforce the deep empathy I have for those who have suffered in any way, particularly those who have been suffering the most over the last several weeks. I will tell you that that empathy comes from a practical experience that I have in this matter as well. I too am a victim of a criminal offense. Death threats against me in the last 48 hours, death threats against city officials in the last 48 hours that Deputy Chief Bell and his team are investigating. While we've been handling this crisis over the last 12 days straight, working 12, 14, 18 hours a day, people like myself, counselors, and other public officials have had to look after the personal safety of themselves and their families and their homes while managing this. This is impacting everybody, and some people very directly. I have deep personal empathy for those that are suffering. We are doing everything we can to make sure we keep the city safe, every resident safe, every business safe. But this is an unprecedented demonstration that is happening here. It has connections locally, provincially, nationally, and internationally. We are literally learning lessons every day. We are getting new intelligence every day. New allies in terms of national and international security agencies are aiding us in understanding the depth and complexity, the resilience of what we're up against, so we can make changes in real time. I've announced today real-time massive changes. 150 officers surging into the 3 impacted neighborhoods of Centertown, Lowertown, and the Market on a 24/7 patrol, focused on unlawful, unacceptable, violent behavior affecting those neighborhoods. We have significantly increased resources from provincial and federal sources, as well as our municipal partners, and we have new engaged allies at all 3 levels of government and across civil society. It is that combined effort that will continue the success to date that we've had. I will tell you the first question a member of the media asked me 12 days ago when it was clear that this would be a sizable demonstration coming to the nation's capital. The very first question asked me by a member of the media, Chief, how will you stop what happened on January 6th in Washington, D.C. in 2020? And I got to tell you, that was stopped. Now we've got a lot of unacceptable and unlawful activities in addition to the death, injury, and full riots that we saw south of the border a year ago in almost the same circumstances. I take no solace in that success. I learn from that, and I learn from the mistakes made. I gather more information, I gather more resources, I gather more allies, and every day we wake up and try to do it better. We need to do it better, and we will do it better. Thank you very much for your question. I think that's the 2 questions. Thank you very much, folks.
So, no, keep just.
You're right there, Andrew. Really dumb. So avoided a January 6th. So what? They didn't invite people into the Capitol? Remove the barricade and wave them in? We didn't do that, so therefore we prevented it?
Some of that stuff, well, their perspective, obviously a lot different than ours. Maybe police have intelligence that, certainly they have intelligence we're not aware of, whether it's accurate, whether those words are appropriate. I will say that a lot of those words to me sound political. A lot of this seems politically motivated. It seems like there's political pressure behind a lot of this. And as I said before, police should be there to keep people safe. Everyone. The protesters, the public, their own officers, everyone. That's what police need to be doing down there. It doesn't matter what the incident is, that always has to be the primary focus for police. And as soon as they shift their focus to making their goal ending the protest, it becomes political. I get a little uneasy with that. And I'd like to see what the justification for that is, aside from pressure that's being applied on them from political forces like the Prime Minister's office, the Premier, the Mayor, members of council, other politicians locally, business people who are probably tied in politically.
Citizens who are tied in politically.
Yes, that's right. And
I'm sure
I think
they're calling 911 day and night.
That's right. And that's what a lot of political activists do. Yes, they're citizens. Yes, they can lodge complaints. Yes, police need to respond to complaints, but you need to have some perspective and understand where information comes from and give it the appropriate amount of weight based on that. And why is it coming to you? So, and not just use certain pieces of information as an excuse to do things that maybe fit your particular worldview or political ideology, or the political ideology of someone else who's putting pressure on you, using a complaint to appease something the mayor wants done. I hope the police chief understands, and I expect he does, that the world is watching this. This is not just an ordinary protest, and this will reflect on the country, what goes down there, and it will reflect on him. Prime ministers come and go, mayors come and go, police chiefs come and go as well. His legacy will live longer than his period in his position as chief of police, all these senior officers, and I hope and pray that everyone down there stays safe. And I don't want either side to get confrontational with this. I'm just hoping that peaceful resolution can be achieved.
That's the number one thing. I really wish that at any point now Justin Trudeau would just say no, we're not. Like even if he made an attempt at bargaining with them somewhat, like maybe get together and then they sign this declaration that says, oh, we all hate symbols and like nobody likes Nazis or what have you. Okay, great. We all agree on that. No, we're not removing the federal mandates. I'm sure they would respect him a hell of a lot better than him just cowering away and hiding.
You know what's really stupid about all this? It's coming anyway.
Yeah.
The provinces, some of the provinces have already announced they will be ending these mandates.
Alberta is recent to the party.
Right? We've seen Alberta, Saskatchewan. We're seeing other countries end the mandates. Justin Trudeau could end this thing right now by doing what's going to happen anyway, because we can see the writing on the wall. Announce that he's ending the mandates. And he's got an easy out. He can say that it's not because of the truckers, but because of the science, from things that even Ontario's medical officer of health has said, that we need to maybe reevaluate the value of these vaccine passports and these mandates. And it looks like, it's coming to an end anyway. So why do we need to get confrontational about this? I think we need to keep our heads level, and I think especially the politicians, and I sure hope that police keep their heads level as well, and keep it cool, because there's no need for violence. We've not seen, it's been a week down there, and there's been really, you can see the video. We've been running the raw video of people dancing in the streets and so on. Sorry, folks, but there has been no violence other than a few minor incidents, including Carla yesterday, who was assaulted by a woman who was upset with the protesters being there. And now, on the weekend, they're going to get 1,000 counter protesters down there, and they've been in touch with police, and police are in tune with what they're doing. And I'm sure they're concerned about them as well. But it isn't the truckers who have been violent in any way. And it isn't the truckers who have been closing down the businesses there.
No.
That in fact, it's just the opposite. The truckers want everybody's businesses open. That's what they're fighting for. They don't want any more lockdowns. They don't want these mandates. They want everyone to be able to open their businesses without restriction. And if they opened their businesses down there, they would be in there spending their money.
Big money, too. Big money.
They just want the government to leave people alone and let people make their own decisions and the mandates. But it's the government that has been telling the business people to close their businesses. So, and then they blame it on the truckers and the protesters. The protesters aren't preventing anyone from opening. They've got thousands and thousands of willing customers right on their front doorstep now.
Look at that. Fred Penner says the counter protest was canceled. We did talk a little bit about that. It was on Reddit where they had posted about the counter protests, and they were like, if you have a mask exemption, stay home, which was probably one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen.
Well, I'll tell you, I certainly hope that's true, because you don't want protesters and counter protesters clashing down there. You don't want one side, getting the other side jacked up. You want to keep them separated. That is what another thing that could lead to bad things happening down there. Everybody has a right to protest. If they do go, and they have every right to go, I just hope that they all keep cool and respect each other's right to express their views. And so far from what we've seen, I think that the people in place down there already would respect that.
Absolutely.
But there is a lot of intolerance these days with cancel culture coming from the left. And they emotions run high. So, and we saw that video yesterday from Carla, that woman upset with the protesters. So she's down there. She smacked that coffee out of the trucker's hand. She kicked over pylons, and then she jumped on Carla, yanked off her toque, pulled her hair.
There is news that this person had been arrested. And I do have a picture of it. Bring it up right now.
Sure.
Hold up.
And I don't know, like the chief was not specific about this death threat that he says he received. I'd like more information on that.
He hasn't been specific about a damn thing.
Yeah, although, I do have something specific to show folks, and that's the apparent desecration of the National War Monument. Police have posted a video, which was shot by a journalist, and they now have it on their website. And we're going to run that video for you and show you what they're talking about and let you draw your own conclusions. In fact, let me see if I can cue that up here for you while Brenden tries to find that other.
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
And there it is.
Okay, let me just come back here. I'll pull this out of here for the moment. And we'll bring up your piece. So what are we looking at here? The arrest of that woman from yesterday that assaulted Carla?
Yeah.
Or allegedly, assuming this is the same person. And folks, we don't know exactly who this person is or what charge. Do we know what charges were laid?
We have no information whatsoever, other than somebody had sent this to Carla after we had played that video yesterday. She's wearing the same boots, the same coat, the same color kind of scarf thing there.
So all we can really say about this is Carla was assaulted yesterday, and somebody sent this video to her, and this is a person being arrested, and we don't know.
Just a picture.
Exactly why, and we don't know, really any of the details here. Did they put handcuffs on this person?
Yeah, they're cuffed. Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
So.
And we don't know the circumstance surrounding this person. We don't know,
no,
what might have motivated or caused the confrontation yesterday in the video that we showed you. And Carla indicated she doesn't want to press charges against this person.
She even gave the police her phone back. Her phone flipped out of her pocket while she was attacked, and she picked the phone up off the ground and gave it to a police officer.
And that's why Carla went to police, was really just to make sure this woman who assaulted her, not necessarily this woman, but the woman who did, that she got her phone back, because the woman dropped her phone while she was jumping on Carla and pulling her hair and assaulting her. So anyway, there's that video, or actually not video, it's just a still image, but
yeah, still image. Sorry, that's all I got.
So there's an arrest, but that's not one of the protesters. That's probably it's just a person who, and the person who assaulted Carla was not a protester. The assault was made by someone who was not in favor of the protest, a counter protester who was down there yelling at people.
Well, I guess we could definitely call her anti-patriotic because she was ripping down Canada flags. So, I mean...
She did do that as well. We saw that in the video from yesterday.
So she doesn't like Canada. What's the word on our
guest? So, our guest should be coming up shortly. Well, I was expecting them actually just about any time now, but hopefully they're able to join us from Freedom Central Canada. This is the video of the apparent desecration of the National War Memorial. The police chief mentioned that again in his news conference today. And I'm going to run this clip, which was provided by the Sun, to the police service. They're looking for this woman. They've provided a description. This is video of her apparently desecrating, and that's their word, the National War Memorial. And, well, I'm going to run this, and this is what the woman did. So let's just watch and see what happens. That's it. One more time. So that's what happened. I'm interested to know what our viewers think.
Well, my grandfather was a Second World War veteran. He had served 1941 to 1946. He was a sapper, Royal Canadian Engineer, service in northwestern France, into Germany. That is distasteful, to say the least. Distasteful. But would I go as far to say as we need to create an international manhunt about it? Seems like a waste of public money, if you ask me.
So the woman walked up the steps of the National War Memorial, turned and shouted freedom.
Isn't that the tomb of the unknown soldier that she's on?
Actually, that's the memorial. The tomb, I believe, sits actually in front of it. So she wasn't on the tomb of the unknown soldier. She was on the larger monument with engravings for the different wars from the different eras.
You know what I think is even more disrespectful to our veterans? Lining us up for another useless war with Russia in the Ukraine for a country that isn't even involved in NORAD. Canada's greatest ally. Give me a break. Like that's more of a desecration on our veterans than anything. It's like almost like we didn't learn anything from the Iraq War or the Afghanistan War.
Who said that Ukraine is Canada's greatest ally? Who said that?
Oh, I've seen it spewed out in the House of Commons. They're saying, oh, Canada has a huge Ukrainian population. We love pierogies, this, that, and the other thing. We need to come to the defense of our ally. It's like, what? That's a bigger slap in the face to veterans. Like, we don't have an army capable of tackling anything to do with the Russians. Like, just stay away from it.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other can of worms, the whole situation in Ukraine, but yeah.
I'm just making a point that if you want to call that disrespectful to veterans, well, then I think starting a useless war with Russia is an even huger desecration against our men and women in service. Just
well, is that desecration of a national war memorial? Is that what police need to focus on? That's my question. The woman walks up the steps, turns, yells out freedom, and then steps down. So now they're hunting for her, and they're asking for the public's help in finding her. They put that video up on their website, and that is one of the incidents that they're using to justify bringing in more police officers and taking hardening the area, as they say, and taking a harder line with the protest. And now their goal is to end the protest. And this is one of the main reasons why. Well,
How much money do you think they'll sink on a manhunt and trial for said person?
I don't know. I really just don't know. I think they'll put that up. They'll hope that somebody identifies her, and they'll go around and pick her up, and she'll end up in court, and then it unfolds from there. And right now, they're using it as one of the reasons that to justify an escalation in a police presence down there. So that's the situation, today with Ottawa police, and that's the concern. If there is escalation with police in Ottawa, then it seems to me that is what could lead to confrontation and problems down there. They are expecting a bigger crowd this weekend. They're controlling the traffic as they have from the beginning. There are thousands of trucks in the city, thousands, but they're spread out all over the city because police have prevented the majority of them, the vast majority, from getting downtown. And they're setting up heavier barricades to make sure no more trucks get down there. I'll tell you, and I've been in downtown Ottawa around the Parliament buildings, and the traffic down there is not good at the best of times. I don't like driving around in downtown Ottawa. It doesn't take much to congest things down there anyway. But the goal of the truckers, yeah, it's to make a statement and have a presence and be a little bit disruptive, I think. But overall, we've seen that they've tried to keep emergency lanes open. And I called a friend of mine in Ottawa today just to get his perspective on it. He lives up there. I said, are the people really as upset as the politicians are telling us? And he said, no. He said, most people don't even really care. It's a political town. They've had protests there before. They'll have them again. And for the most part, people are taking it all in stride. If the businesses downtown are choosing to close, I think that's their choice at this point. It is not the truckers forcing them to close their businesses.
And Carla specified that there's like a shawarma shop that has agreed to stay open. They've been open this for some time.
So it's spreading, we've also got this situation out in Alberta, at the Alberta-Montana border. And that has been volatile as well. And now we're seeing that there's a convoy heading to Toronto, Queen's Park, tomorrow. So there is escalation on the truckers' side there. Now, I will say that the tone in the news conference today from Toronto with the police chief there and the mayor, John Tory, I think that was more even in tone, far less confrontational. They are not supportive of anything going on in Ottawa with the truckers. They're not supportive of the truckers other than to say that they have the right to protest. And they're going to be trying to control traffic down around Queen's Park. We can run a little bit of that news conference as well, and some of their comments from the Toronto police chief and Mayor John Tory. Let me see if I can cue up some of that for you.
Well, this is, if you think about it a little bit, this has kind of been the goal of the protesters all along, is to create this type of pressure, if I'm not mistaken.
Welcome to today's news conference. Chief James Raymer will begin, followed by Staff Superintendent Lauren Pogue, and then Mayor John Tory will also provide remarks. They will provide an update on the service's operational plans for this weekend. We will then follow with questions.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I will provide an update on the police planning for the weekend, and will then invite Staff Superintendent Lauren Pogue to say a few words. Mayor Tory has joined us today in headquarters and will also provide some remarks. As you are aware, the Toronto Police Service, along with our city and emergency response partners and the TTC, is preparing for a convoy for freedom protests in locations around the Greater Toronto Area including our downtown core tomorrow, Saturday, February 5th. Our objectives will be to ensure the public safety and to limit disruption to the city and its residents as much as possible. We have plans in place and we continue to communicate with a varied group of organizers of these protests. The service is required to facilitate peaceful demonstrations. This will be balanced by our priority to ensure public safety, to protect hospitals and infrastructure, and the city's emergency response needs. The public should expect a large police presence in and around the downtown core and other areas around the city at different times over the weekend. The service will manage these protests as best we can with the intention to limit disruption, but our number one priority will be the safety of the public. These events are always fluid and dynamic, and we will be doing our best to respond quickly and to communicate any important information to the public on a timely basis. We have done our best to plan for this based on all the information we have. Our approach will necessarily evolve based on what we see in real time. As always, we ask for the city's patience and support as we do our work to serve and protect. The service will be prioritizing emergency access routes to hospitals to ensure patients, their families, and healthcare workers are able to access the hospital safely. Road closures have already begun and will be in effect to eliminate potential disruption to patients and healthcare workers who need access to hospitals. Anyone who attempts to disrupt hospital access and routes of emergency operations, including ambulance, fire, or police, will be subject to strict enforcement. As we work to protect the public, we again ask for your cooperation and your patience as you may experience traffic delays in the downtown area and possibly extending into other areas. We recommend that the public avoid all demonstration areas if possible and to consider using public transit if they must be in those areas. The service will provide regular updates to the public through the weekend, and this will be provided by Staff Superintendent Lauren Pogue. I'd like to invite Lauren to say a few words now.
Thank you, Chief Raymer. As the Chief has mentioned, our members have been working tirelessly over the last several days to develop a plan that prioritizes public safety and as limited disruption to the city as possible.
Oh, we have lost Rick Walker here for just a moment. He should be up soon.
Of the event. We have worked with our public and private sector partners, such as the City of Toronto, Emergency Response, and TTC, to use all of the resources that may be available to us. I will reiterate what the Chief said. We will be prioritizing emergency access routes to hospitals, and anyone who attempts to disrupt hospital access and routes of emergency operations, including ambulance, fire, or police, will be subject to enforcement. We are prepared to monitor events across the city 24/7 and deploy additional resources if necessary. We will provide timely updates to the media and social media so the public can be as informed as possible. I will be making myself available as needed throughout the weekend for updates as well. I'd like to close by thanking all members of the Toronto Police Service, especially the downtown divisions and our emergency management and public order unit, who have taken the lead on the planning for this weekend. We know the increased presence of uniformed police officers can be unsettling, but we want to reassure the public that we are doing everything we can to keep our city safe and secure. Thank you.
Now, Mayor Todd.
Well, good afternoon, and I want to say thank you to Chief Raymer and Staff Superintendent Pogue for this update. I think it is important that the public has as much information as police can provide ahead of this possible protest and throughout the weekend, and I'm very grateful for the efforts being made to keep everyone informed. I'm here at headquarters today, police headquarters, to show my support as mayor for the work that the police are doing to keep people safe this weekend and to prepare for this weekend. Our city is no stranger to protests, often significant, large protests. Throughout this pandemic, we have seen protests happen on a number of different occasions and on a number of different issues, including regular weekly protests where many gather to object to public health measures and to vaccinations. I don't personally agree with all of the views expressed by all of those protesters, but I respect the right of all Canadians to peaceful protest. So we've seen many peaceful and respectful protests in our city, and it is my hope, if people are determined to gather to protest this weekend in our city of Toronto, that a commitment to respectful, peaceful protest will be demonstrated again this weekend. Police, with the full assistance of the city, have been preparing for this protest, as you've heard this afternoon, because we all want to do everything we can to avoid the situation that we're seeing in Ottawa. If anyone is planning to come here for a protest that is not peaceful and that is not respectful, I would urge you on behalf of all Toronto residents and businesses to please stay home. Peaceful and respectful is the way we do things here. Overnight and this morning, I've had calls from Prime Minister Trudeau, Public Safety Minister Mendicino, and Premier Ford. In our conversations, all three offered their help and the help of their governments to the City of Toronto if required throughout this protest. I'm thankful for their offers of support and for their commitment to helping us to protect the public safety of all of our residents and businesses. I know the road closures put in place over the course of the weekend may be disruptive to some residents and businesses, but as the police have said, the chief has said, this is about public safety in general and protecting our hospitals and everyone who works there and seeks care there. All of these measures are focused on public safety. I want again to be absolutely clear that I support Toronto Police taking necessary action to prepare for this protest with a focus on doing everything they can to protect the safety of Toronto residents and businesses and to minimize any disruptions to Toronto residents and businesses to the greatest extent possible. Les personnes doivent pouvoir obtenir ou offrir des soins de santé en toute sécurité. Les résidents et les entreprises de Toronto doivent être protégés et c'est ce que nous essaierons tout de faire. The residents of Toronto understand that people should not be blocked from receiving emergency care or any medical care, and hospital workers should be able to freely and safely come and go from their workplaces. I know Toronto residents are also thinking about all the businesses that will be open this weekend for the first time since public health measures were updated, the first weekend since they were updated, particularly restaurants that will be open for indoor dining. These businesses, which have been hit very hard by the pandemic, have every right to be open and not to be disrupted. As mayor, I don't direct the police. No elected official does or should. But I have made it clear to Chief Raymer that I will support his men and women doing everything they can reasonably do to avoid the type of situation currently being faced by Ottawa residents and businesses. No matter what comes, I know we will get through this weekend. And I want to thank Toronto residents and businesses in advance for their patience and understanding with these developments and for their cooperation with the Toronto Police Service and other public officials. Everyone's been through a lot over the course of this pandemic, but I know people understand the paramount importance of public safety. I also want to thank all of the police officers led by our very capable and reliable Chief of Police, James Raymer, and the city staff who are working throughout this weekend to keep our city and all of its residents safe. We want to keep them safe as well, the officers who are doing this work for us. This is a great city, and like all cities around the world, we've battled the COVID-19 pandemic for the last 2 years, and I know that's been tremendously hard on a lot of people, maybe most people. But we're almost through this pandemic, and we're at this point thanks to the collective efforts and cooperation of the vast majority of Toronto residents. More than 90% of Toronto residents have their first dose of vaccine. Today, 60% of eligible residents have their third dose. What great demonstrations of the unity of the people of this city, of teamwork, of concern for each other. And we're on the path to reopening. So we will get there, and we will come back stronger than ever. I'm completely confident that will be the case, and I'm here to provide whatever support that I can to all of the men and women who will be working hard to keep this city, its people, and its businesses safe over the course of this weekend. Thank you.
We'll now take questions.
Okay, so that's enough of that. Thoughts?
Judging by our comments here, John Tory is a very loved man, eh?
I guess depends on the crowd that you're hanging out with at any given time.
I don't.
Yeah, it's a love fest here, though. You can clearly see that.
I think I've only ever seen like one thing about him. To be honest, I don't know that much. He gives off a very liberal vibe, but you're absolutely right. It was a more even-handed discussion or press conference. There was some fear mongering in there, though.
100%.
They say, "Oh, don't worry, they're not going to block the hospital off." And then we've already seen the memos. Don't come to work dressed like a healthcare worker because they'll come and get you.
Right. That's exactly right. I mean, that's exactly right. It's the choice of words, the way they focus their statements. It's you can't tell me that wasn't politically charged. You can't tell me that wasn't anti-trucker, because they're suggesting or insinuating, I guess, that these truckers are going to roll into town and target hospitals and try to shut hospitals down. And they might attack hospital workers and assault them. So if you go to work and you're a hospital worker, come in plain clothes. That was something that they issued as a public statement today from the hospital, because they're afraid they're concerned for the safety of the hospital employees. I don't think any of these truckers have any interest in shutting down a hospital or targeting or assaulting any hospital workers. I haven't heard anything like that at all. I don't believe it for 1 minute.
I've known some bad dudes in my day, but I don't think I've ever known anybody who's been so evil, who's like, let's go and shut down the hospital. Like, that's almost like a cartoonish kind of evil. Like,
whatever, they're planting things in people's heads. I suppose, fine. You want to make sure that the traffic flows so emergency vehicles can get through. You want to make sure your ambulances can get to the hospital and fire trucks can get to a fire. 100%. But what they're doing is making it sound like the truckers are going to blockade the hospital, prevent access, try to shut it down. And more than that, they're worried that these truckers are going to get violent and go down there and assault hospital workers. I don't know where the heck they're getting that. It's complete pure fabrication. If they're creating this image in people's heads of something that hasn't happened, and that have you heard any statement from any trucker at any point? Can you show me any evidence to suggest that these truckers want to target hospitals or hospital workers? Show me something, anything. If anybody can send me anything, you send it on down. John Tory, send it on over. Send me the evidence. Police chief, bring it on. I'd like to see it, because I don't believe it for a minute. Show me the evidence. Show me what motivated those statements. Show me. And don't show me some plant or some
psyop,
some fake thing that show me something.
Happened last summer?
Something real. Show me a trucker saying it. And if he's threatening someone, charge him. Don't just suggest something might happen, and they're scaring people. That's been the problem with this whole damn thing from the beginning, is they've filled people full of fear. They're using fear as a tool. They've used fear to get everybody to lock down, wear their masks, and fall into line. Fear of the virus, fear of everything. And now they're trying to gin up fear of truckers. These are the guys who are showing up on your doorstep to deliver your packages, or at the grocery store to deliver your food every day. These are your next door neighbors. These are just working class people, your friends, the people that your kids play hockey with and soccer. These are just ordinary Canadians fighting for their freedom, fighting for their rights, fighting to preserve what's left of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which honestly isn't much because they've shredded it. That's what is going on here. That's what they're down there fighting for. They want to keep the hospitals open as much as anybody. They want good health care for people as much as anybody. They want the businesses open as much as anybody, more so. The politicians are speaking with a forked tongue as usual, with forked tongues, speaking out of both sides of their mouths and flipping things upside down. They're the ones who have been locking people down. They're the ones who have been enforcing restrictions on people. They're the ones who have restricted access to hospitals. They're the ones who have restricted operations, canceled surgeries, prevented people from going into the hospital to get tests for cancer. They're the ones who have caused more death that way because people haven't received proper health care over the past 2 years because they've been singular in focus on COVID and not providing proper and adequate health care on other fronts for people and not finding the proper balance for people. And that's why people are fed up. It isn't truckers who have been stopping people from going to the hospital. It isn't truckers who have mismanaged the healthcare system. It isn't any of that. It's not ordinary Canadians that have caused this problem. It's inept, incompetent politicians and bureaucrats who have abused people, who have abused the system, who have been neglectful, and have been feeding at the public trough for decades, far too long. And you were just looking at some of them sitting at tables right there, spewing half-truths, twisted information, and trying to control you with fear again. That's what's going on, folks. And that's why people are heading to Toronto tomorrow. That's why they're sitting in Ottawa tonight. And if there's violence, that's on the cops right now. If there's violence or if there's blood, that's on the hands of the police right now. Because this has been entirely peaceful from the beginning. And if it goes south, nobody knows what's really going to happen down there yet. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure that it won't be the truckers who instigate anything down there, because so far, everything we've seen has been peaceful and people have not been engaging in anything volatile. In fact, my buddy who I called down there, I said, what's really been going on down there? And he said, oh, they're talking about the garbage and everything. And my friend's actually on the opposite side. He doesn't give a crap. He wants people to get vaccinated. He's in favor of a lot of these mandates. But he's saying that he's acknowledging that the truckers are actually down there cleaning garbage up. We have video of protesters or supporters of the convoy shoveling snow off the National War Memorial. That's not desecration. And anytime that there's been any concern about anything, the truckers have gone above and beyond to counter that narrative. I know that they went to the food bank and dropped off a crap load of food, so much so that they couldn't find enough space on the shelves to stock it all. We know that for a fact. We know that the truckers have been feeding the homeless downtown. And I'll tell you something else. When I've been in downtown Ottawa, you walk across the street from the Rideau Center and you just hang out on that street for a little while in front of the McDonald's and the Tim Hortons, and you will see people sleeping on the street under the shadow of the Parliament buildings. And what has Justin Trudeau done to do anything about that in the entire time he has been in office? And the answer to that, folks, is nothing. It's shameful. The national capital, and you go down there and you see homeless people sleeping on the street just blocks from the Parliament buildings. And then they want to go down there and clear out and end the protest with hardworking, peace-loving truckers, working class people who are down there supporting them, Canadian citizens. These are the people that our politicians are supposed to represent. But I'll tell you, they're not representing them. They're not. They're representing fat cat elite feeding at the trough, $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, cushy bureaucrats and politicians. That's who they're supporting. They're interested in power. They're not interested at all in the people, and they sure as heck don't seem to give one monkey's fart about your rights or the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They don't care about the Charter. They've just shredded it. They don't care. And it's high time things in this country changed for every Canadian. Doesn't matter what your religion is, what your political views are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter. If you're a Canadian, you have rights. You have rights. And that's what Brian Peckford, the former Premier of Newfoundland, is that's why he's suing the federal government. That's what his lawsuit is all about. And that could really make a big difference. But the protesters are holding the line right now because those kind of lawsuits are going to take a lot of time. And Canadians are out of time and they're fed up. And that's what's going on down there.
We all just want our country back. Like, this stuff has been building up for so long.
And it's the half-truths and the smear merchants and the let's go down there and cherry pick little incidents to smear all these truckers. You know what?
I think some of that is actually to the benefit of people at this point. You want to know why? Because it's showing the ugly face of all these things of what it actually is. I watched a video today of the new Conservative leader, Candice Bergen, and she was going off against Chrystia Freeland. And all through the comment section was people just ripping like, I totally regret voting Liberal. The tide is turning right now. The people have seen the good things they've seen. They've seen everything that's been going on. They've seen street hockey over in Ottawa. They've seen people getting rid of all the people with the quote-unquote hateful flags. They've seen the people reject these actions, and that a lot of them understand what's going on down there is not how it's being portrayed.
Justin Trudeau is weak. That's why he's squeezing harder. That's why the cops are talking the way they're talking. That's why, because they're weak. They're trying to double down and find a way to continue to control people. They want these protesters out of there in the worst way. They don't want this spreading, but it's too late. Canadians are seeing it. You saw it on the highway when the truckers were driving down there in their convoys. Canadian people lining the highways, displaying Canadian flags, an outpouring of love for their country and for these truckers for giving them hope for the first time in 2 damn years. After our politicians have said, stay the F home, lock everything down, screw your business. Costco can open, but Susie's shoe store down the street, you got to close. It didn't make any sense, but they didn't care because it wasn't about that. It never has been, and people are beginning to realize it. Am I saying there's no virus? No, I'm not saying it's a hoax. I'm saying that the politicians have been using this as an excuse to do a lot of the crappy things that they've wanted to do to people for quite a while. They're implementing a plan here, folks, and you're seeing it roll out. They're abusing us.
Hey, Rick, why don't you bring up our footage? Carla is live right now, so just bring it up.
Sure.
Keep talking. So this is downtown Ottawa right now.
Well, there's the people you're supposed to be afraid of.
Ooh, frightening. Especially the guy on the left there. I bet you he could take me out.
Folks, little kids waving flags, moms, dads, your neighbors, Canadians from across the country. You saw that outpouring of hope, that national pride that for the first time in a long time was on display as these truckers were heading toward Ottawa. They're trying to take that away from you again. Justin Trudeau doesn't care about this country. He hates Canada. He doesn't believe in a national identity. He says Canada is the first post-nation state. He is anti-Canadian. What's going on down there right now, that is Canadian. People dancing in the streets, wearing Canadian flags, wearing Canadian toques. Look at, they're carrying Canadian flags. They're proud Canadians, all of them. It's the Canadian way. How did Carla put it the other night, Brenden? You know, she was down there. What kind of a revolution? This was a peaceful revolution.
Peaceful revolution, yes.
That's what's going on. But Justin, you know, and it's a very Canadian thing. That's what Justin Trudeau is afraid of. This is a revolution. And his grasp on power is slipping away. He's petrified. Absolutely petrified. And Doug Ford, his days are numbered too. Premier of Ontario.
Days are numbered. He's not going to last long at all, especially with his recent statements. It's not been... He had a real opportunity, I think, to turn his upcoming election around, but, I mean, we don't need to get into that right now, but he did have a real opportunity to do that, and his total rejection of everything that's happened...
That's exactly it, Andrew.
Shame.
He hates Canadians. He's smearing these people. They're smear merchants, labeling all these people down there as racists, extremists. We've seen First Nations peoples, people from all walks of life down there. They're just Canadians of every shade. That's who's down there. Look at they're carrying the balloons. Let's send in the military. Now, okay, maybe the cops have some intelligence that says that there are a few bad actors down there. Maybe they got to go down and weed somebody up. Maybe there is somebody down there who has bad intentions. If that's the case, then go in and surgically remove that threat. But these people are not a problem. They are not. You've seen it here for the entire week. We've been running the raw footage. It's unedited. It's as unedited as we can provide it. This is the
live.
It's, you know, this is what's going on down there right now. Now you can listen to the mainstream media spew their rhetoric, their propaganda, the information that the government wants them and is ordering them to give you because they're all on
paying them to give you.
That's right, because they're all on the government payroll now in a big way. Even the private CTV guys. They're all feeding at the public trough. It's corruption, not necessarily illegal corruption because they've legalized it, but it's corruption. It's all corrupt. And these people, they're smearing these people.
And look at this, more dangerous actions happening.
Here they are fueling up the trucks. They need the fuel so that the guys can stay warm. They have to heat the trucks. So the police chief in Ottawa made it clear. No food, no water, no fuel. They're trying to stop it all from coming in. They're going to starve them out, freeze them out. No aid, no way to the enemy in any way. And that's really what he was saying. No aid to the enemy. These guys, he sees these people as the enemy. These are everyday Canadians. They may be protesting, folks, but they're still Canadians.
I would wager, Rick, let me see. I would wager that everybody down there protesting 3 years ago probably would have seen themselves as somebody who would never even go to a protest.
That's very true. You know, that is very true. For 30 years, I've been involved in the media. For 25, I worked as a reporter. I've been to more protests than you can shake a stick at. I know the difference between a professional protester and protests that are organized by unions and political organizations or lobby groups and something like this, which honestly, what this is this is an organic, grassroots protest. This grew out of frustration. These are just people who they're just fed up. They're fed up. They're loosely organized. They have some organization because they needed some sort of organization to get down there, but they're not. I would not say they are well organized. These are people just coming together and flying by the seat of their pants. They're making it up as they go along, and they're finding ways to survive down there and make this thing happen. And the $10 million that was donated through the GoFundMe, that's just more regular, everyday Canadians stepping up to the plate saying, we're fed up too. And they gave them all this money.
Yeah.
Well, now the government's really gone after it, and they've managed to convince GoFundMe to freeze those funds.
Actually, they're blocked entirely. I still have the URL. Thank God I left it on my computer. The URL is campaign not found is what comes up when you plug it in. So it's been pulled entirely at this point. It looks like they want representatives for GoFundMe to go to Canada Parliament and talk about how this money won't be used to fund the wrong things that they don't want.
Yeah, is Carla live right down? So she's live right now, right? Can we pull up some audio on this just to hear what they're saying?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's give people a taste of what she's seeing down there right now.
Yeah, Toronto's going to be big. Yeah, this is great, right? I just love the way it's spilling across the world. Everybody's looking at Canada. We are the leaders.
We are.
Yeah.
And you know what? We have to be. It's a part of history.
It is. Well, how old are you? Do you want me asking? You're 19 years old. Sir, you are on the right side of history. Be blessed. Thank you so much. 19 years old. Yeah.
Canadian flags, wearing Canadian flags. As far as I'm concerned, it's this outpouring of Canadian pride. It's overdue.
Like obviously the children, but I love seeing like that guy. He's 19 years old. You know, I hate seeing what's happening with his education. He just wants to get through trade school. They canceled his in-school classes. How's he going to learn the trades unless he's learning it hands-on? I mean, that's the type of job it is. It's not, you're not book smart when you're doing the trades. You know, you need the hands-on work. I don't know what the government thinks they're going to do with these people, with these poor students. It's ridiculous. Said he had to give up a year. 19 years old. He's on the right side of history. I loved his answer. He said, just come here. Just come be a part of.
And Bron, yes, I agree with you.
That
so
seems
far,
to be what I'm getting from most of the truckers. Just come here. Be here. Bring your body here.
Where's the garbage they're talking about? Littered all over the street. Where is it? Show me.
Oh, there's the music.
All right, I'm on Kent Street. I don't think I've come down this street before. I'm probably a couple streets past where my hotel is, but let's venture down. Let's see what they have here. Born free. Born free, and we're going to live free.
So they're down there fighting for freedom. So what's the other side fighting for? If you're not fighting for freedom, what are you fighting for? What's the other side want?
They want safety. Govern me harder, Daddy.
Uh-huh. So no freedom for you. They don't want freedom. Why can't we be free again?
The way people try to justify that to themselves just kind of makes me sick. And I've seen it come up in the comments here. Oh, you have privileges. You don't have rights. It's like, that's absolute horse crap. Like, you can say that all you want, but it's misconstrued and it is not proper. Like, whoever got people on that bandwagon thinking that, oh, well, none of these things are rights. They're just privileges.
just call them back.
And yes, police have been good down there so far. I hope that continues. And I hope the tone that we heard from the chief today doesn't translate into an escalation. There's no need for it. You've seen that. You see that there's no need for police to escalate things and create a problem. And I hope that doesn't happen because they've been awesome so far. When police go down there, though, if they go down there, if they...
I haven't seen, like, see those cement blocks? Like where they're, those barricades? They look like cement from here. I haven't seen those anywhere. This is the first place I've seen them.
Yeah, they're moving them in. That's what the chief said they were going to do. There they are.
I'm going to guess the city put them up.
She obviously didn't see the news conference earlier today. That's why the chief said they were going to do that.
Is that so that more trucks
I think
can't
she
get
also
onto
said she didn't walk
Wellington?
down there yet.
Anyone who has any knowledge of that, maybe let me know. I mean, I'm going to ask some people, but I mean, the obvious thing is they were probably put here by the police or by the city to prevent these trucks from coming. Whole new set of trucks I haven't even seen before. Look at this one. That's a little different from the signs we've been seeing, right? The prayer truck. Remember when this phrase was in our anthem? That's been gone for a while. And has anyone noticed that when they do sing the national anthem here, they keep it? Hey guys, how you doing? Good. So you're sitting here. I haven't been down this street yet. I've been here since Thursday. You guys are from BC? Way to represent. That's a long way. That's right. Do you feel? Canadian. I know. Do you feel more Canadian over this than you have in years?
Yeah, I feel even more Canadian when they get rid of that.
That's right.
Because I'm a free living person. I've been free my whole life, and I've never had to be told what to do. Just abide by laws. Mandates aren't laws.
That's right.
Things that totalitarian people try to tell us that we have to live by, that are passed by lawmakers. So we're here telling them that we're not doing anything.
So how does it make you feel being here? What do you think about the vibe and the general energy here? Pardon?
I'm taking it all in, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of ups and downs. A lot of times I'm pretty high and positive like I am right now, really upbeat, like everything's great, meeting people. But there are also times where it's like really over emotional and I'm very teary. It's a beautiful thing, and not tears of sadness,
but tears of joy. That's right, that emotional, like that's the thing you become overcome with. Like they were doing a thing of "We Are the World," and there was a small circle, and it just got bigger and bigger. And I was taping it, and I got in the center of it, and tears were just flowing down my eyes because I was so overwhelmed with that love, that feeling of love that's here. It's just unbelievable.
And do, right? Like, I mean, me personally, I know that Gandhi did it with India back in like the 1940s or 1950s, right? We can do it too. We don't need guns to solve our problem. We're Canadian. We're peaceful people. All we did was just jump in a bunch of trucks and come down here and clog up the streets, and now they're listening.
Yeah, that's right.
And the world's listening too.
I love that we're spreading this whole movement across the world. I mean, Canada is...
Well, we didn't even spread it too. They just watched us with the truth. By the time we were in Ottawa after doing the journey across Canada, they were already with the program. They got it. They understood it. Get the families out of the homes and get them in the streets cheering is how you start a revolution.
That's right. And this is I've been calling it a love revolution. That's what it is. Thank you so much for coming. You came a long way. Take care of yourself. Be kind. Stay Canadian. Whoa, I'm just running into all kinds of things over here.
The
Charter of Rights and Freedoms does recognize the supremacy of God right
Must
at
be,
the beginning.
another
The beginning of the Charter.
little kind of almost campsite. It's great. This is great.
And that is what guarantees the individual's rights. Your rights as an individual. The government has used COVID as an excuse to do an end run around the Charter.
That's awesome.
Can I join your fire?
And lock everybody down and restrict your freedoms in virtually every way. To strip you almost entirely of your rights. To force you to do
this is
things
like
you don't want to
amazing
do.
chaos down here. There's the tractors. Remember I lost them? There they are. Over here. Comes a trailer coming in. I'll just get out of their way. This is crazy. Live downtown Ottawa near the Parliament building tonight. Our eyes and ears on the streets of Ottawa. Truckers are down there fighting for freedom, for the restoration of our freedoms. While Justin Trudeau hides and directs things from wherever he's hiding out in an effort to exert as much control and force as he can to maintain his flipping grip on power tonight. Strategy being employed on both sides as truckers try to remain on site, and police sending in at least 150 additional officers into the downtown area starting tonight and through the weekend, assuming they allow this protest to continue. Police have made it clear from their tone, at least the police has, that they find all of this, in his words, unacceptable. Just as Justin Trudeau says these people have unacceptable views, this goes pretty far.
This chief says this protest is unacceptable. He says the goal of the police service is not just public safety. He says the goal of the police service in Ottawa is now to end this protest.
Oh, this is great. Oh, wow. This is a freaking parking lot. This is gridlock. But again, here's the open street.
So the the truckers clogging up some streets, but still making sure that they have enough access for emergency vehicles to keep things flowing, to keep things safe down there. That's what we've been seeing all week.
Oh my. Oh, I'm walking through this. I have to.
It doesn't exactly fit the narrative that's been coming from the politicians and the bureaucrats. This is raw footage live from downtown Ottawa, unedited, uncensored. These are the people you're supposed to be afraid of. These are the people who are supposed to be violent. The violence we have seen was directed at Carla yesterday when she was assaulted, and we have video of that we ran yesterday by a woman who went down there and began assaulting people, assaulting the protesters because she said they were all, well, she was a counter-protester of sorts, obviously not in favor of what the truckers were doing, and she began assaulting people. Carla was one of them.
It goes pretty far down there.
We jumped on Carla, pulled her toque off, began yanking on her hair, knocked her to the ground.
I do want to get back from that. Maybe we can check this out tomorrow, but wow. It's a whole new area.
And in the video that we ran yesterday, none of the people who were assaulted by that woman reacted in a violent way at all. They took their lumps and let the woman move on.
Because where these trucks are coming in.
The woman then went and tore down Canadian flags, knocked over pylons, yelled at people.
So this is Kent Street.
Knocked a coffee out of a trucker's hand as she was walking by.
Maybe 2 blocks from Slater on Kent Street. I am 1 street. I usually go up Bank Street.
I'm not noticing any of these police officers we were promised.
On Kent Street, so I'm 1 street past Bank.
Maybe just pull the audio down just a little bit, Brenden.
Roger. How's that?
Maybe just a touch more, just a touch. Just get the audio mix a little bit better so that as we're commenting, it's a little easier for people to understand what's being said.
We'll turn it up when we get. Sometimes she stops to talk to people. I'll just turn it up then.
Oh, look, I found a convenience store. Huh.
Oh, look, it's open. Beautiful.
I guess if you walk the downtown enough times, you learn where everything is.
The horns are still blaring, sending a message directly to the Prime Minister's office, and those horns are literally being heard around the world again tonight as these people demand an end to all of these COVID mandates, these restrictions on people's freedoms, demanding that our politicians and bureaucrats find a correct balance between safety and freedom. I was listening to some of the trucker chatter on their radio channels today, and they are concerned that Antifa might be going down there over the weekend, and the counter-protesters might be heading down there.
Still absolute silence out of Justin Trudeau.
That's the thing. They're not even talking to these truckers. They're not even talking to the people.
They're not even talking about them. There was a cheap shot made by the Minister of Transport. He goes, thanks to 90% of the truckers who complied. But other than that, like, there's just no discussions about it at all.
Earlier this week, we did speak with a trucker from Australia who was involved in a protest in Australia inspired by the Canadian truckers. And yes, apparently Australian police went in, the local police there, and shut that all down, cleaned them all out.
No, they're still in there last I saw.
Were they? Were they able to survive it?
They
We have
were
to get
able
an
to
update
survive
on
it.
that.
The police are still in there. It seems to me like they're doing kind of a cat and a mouse kind of thing where they go in and they bother people and then they leave and then they come back.
Yeah, these are the fringers. The fringers. You know, that's the thing. It's like Justin Trudeau. Maybe just put that audio down a touch more there, Brenden. Just pull it up a little bit so we can still hear some PG audio.
Yes, the police did attack the Australians in Canberra.
Yeah, I did see some video of that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Slater Street, so I'm gonna walk back towards
This is what's going on in downtown Ottawa tonight. Again, a big thank you to Carla Olson for helping us and providing this live stream. She's going to be joining us, I think, shortly, a little later on in the broadcast, to also share her thoughts and her perspective on what she has seen down there all day and what she thinks is likely to come later tonight, tomorrow, and over the weekend. Maybe bring it up. She's going to talk.
whole new little side street that I hadn't been down. Absolute chaos. Has anyone noticed that these truckers are getting pretty good at playing their, pulling their horns and actually making music? It almost, maybe I've just been here so long. I don't know. It sounds like music to me. Oh, this is great. I'm looking forward to going back to my room, seeing Matt. I'm excited to get that microphone so that I can continue to do interviews and maybe you guys will be able to actually hear, because I noticed it kind of muffles and it must be the wind, because I promise I'm not putting my hand over it. Yeah, today's been another great day. Not quite as many people as I expected at this point. I'm wondering if maybe around between 4 and 6 they were kind of there. Tomorrow definitely is going to be a big deal, especially if the city is, booked up. So we'll just have to see. We'll have to see what tomorrow brings. Let's have a look at my old friend truckers. I'll bring you guys to my door and then I'm going to sign off.
So again, I'd like to see where all this trash and garbage and that is supposed to be all over the streets.
It's literally cleaner than the streets where I live.
Apparently, the city has not been cleaning stuff up, and we have seen video. And I did get confirmation today that the truckers have been going around with garbage bags, cleaning stuff up themselves. They've also been clearing snow.
I was thinking about Matt coming in. He said it wasn't too bad when he left, as far as getting out. And our hotel is on the emergency route. You can see straight ahead. There is that emergency lane. It's pretty easy to get up and down this street. Well, it's a one-way street. I think he might have a little bit of trouble getting to it, though, especially if he has to go up and around and come down through where I just came from. I know if it were me driving, I might panic a little bit because that was just absolute chaos. It was amazing, actually, though. So
And
all
tonight,
these cars have been just
tonight,
parked
are
here
you seeing any
for
Nazi flags
days,
anywhere?
As you can see.
Any?
Look at the snow in the back of that.
Because
pickup
if you
truck.
listen to the mainstream media, it's supposed to be, all about hate down there. They're all a bunch of fascists.
Anyway, my hotel is right here, so I'm just gonna go into my hotel, wait for my husband. I might come back on tonight, maybe not. Either way, you can be rest assured I will be here tomorrow. I'm expecting big things.
That
Leave
may
your
well
comments
be,
below.
Jumanji.
Tell me what you think could happen tomorrow. Tell me what your expectation is. What are you guys hearing about? Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for walking with me all day long. And always remember, be kind, be Canadian.
Man, I love her.
Absolutely.
Her heart is just so full of positivity, and she just spreads it everywhere she goes. Even yesterday, when that woman jumped on her, yanked her hair, assaulted her, what was her response? She felt sorry for her. She didn't want to lay charges. The other woman dropped her phone, when she was assaulting Carla, and Carla went to the police not to lay a complaint, but to make sure the woman got her phone back. Because she understood that the woman, for 2 years, has had the media drilling hate into her head and fear. And the woman's being controlled with that, like so many other Canadians. And Canadians have been divided by the rhetoric of Justin Trudeau. Should we tolerate these people, he says? People with unacceptable views. And a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Disgusting.
That's the thing about the fear that they've been drilling into people, and they try to deny it, but every Commonwealth country in essentially the world, so English Commonwealth country in the world, has essentially had a propaganda or fear program that was initiated at the start of the pandemic. Signage everywhere you go. Like, these are things that to constantly remind you of the fear, like at all points of time.
Justin Trudeau doesn't stand a chance. These bureaucrats, these politicians, these locker downers, these people who want to take away our freedoms, they don't stand a chance. You know why? Because love is going to prevail. Because everybody on the freedom side is about bringing people together. Nobody on the freedom side cares what your religion is. They don't care what your sexual orientation is. They don't care about any of that crap. Okay? That's you. You are who you are. Everybody is an individual. And everybody on the freedom side has their freedom based on their individuality. They get their freedoms as an individual. That's what the people on the freedom side want restored. And it's all about freedom and love. And there's no way these people on the other side are going to win. They can't. In the long run, and hopefully in the short run, but in the long run, no way. You see it down there. The outpouring of national pride, the people wearing the flags, the people singing the national anthem, dancing in the streets. They're not going to let this country slip away. They're not going to do it. And that's what these people on the other side are all about. They're about power. They're about control. They are not about Canada. They are anti-Canadian. Everything they've done has been anti-Canadian. They are not following the Canadian path. It's not the Canadian way. And it's high time we got back to our Canadian values: tolerance, peace, love, understanding, freedom. Freedom. You lose your freedom and you're on the wrong path. You're on a path to tyranny. And that's what Justin Trudeau is trying to hang on to tonight. That's what Doug Ford has been trying to hang on to in Ontario. That's what he's still trying to hang on to tonight. And these bureaucrats, these police chiefs of police, if they let themselves be manipulated by that, they may find themselves on the wrong side of history too. The world is watching. keep everyone safe. That's what your job is. Let the politics unfold as it will. Do not get confrontational. Do not instigate things. Do not cause a problem that doesn't need to be caused down there. I pray wisdom prevails.
Peace prevails. Love prevails. Do you think that this is a sign of the narrative collapsing on itself?
Obviously, it's collapsing. We're seeing it. We're seeing it, Brenden, all around the world. Other countries are just, they're packing it in on all of these measures. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for the people. It hasn't done anything to stop the spread of this virus. There are many thousands of experts around the world who issued that warning from the beginning. But because of censorship, cancel culture, people being coerced, threatened, people losing their jobs, silenced, these bureaucrats who have been using this as an excuse to grab power and take it from the people and to control us all, they just weren't listening, refused to listen and acknowledge, because this was their opportunity to abuse us, to take for themselves, to strip us of our rights and freedoms, take it away, to implement tracking programs, apps on our phones to track us, and lay down the foundation for a system that keeps us all under tabs, make sure we all pay every penny of tax, track us digitally, make sure we're good boys and girls, reward those who stay in line, and punish those who don't. You don't agree with the government, you don't get to go to a restaurant. You don't agree with the government, you don't get to play hockey, young man. You don't get to travel. You don't get to get on a plane. You think it's just going to stop with this? You think it's just going to stop with a needle? No. They've got this system in place now. They've invested heavily, billions, trillions of dollars developing these apps and these tracking systems that they've implemented, these digital identity systems. Folks, Canadians are waking up and realizing that these so-called conspiracy theories that they were told would never come true and were only harbored by crazy people just, a couple of years ago, they're already here. When these truckers drive up to the border, before they get to the booth with the customs agent, they already know whether the guy's been vaccinated. They know where he's been. They have all the data on that driver because it transmits from his phone to the guard in the booth. More than that, they're tracking people using the internet now. It's bad enough we have all these companies, corporations, ad agencies tracking everything you do online. They know every video you watch, everything you read. They know what you like. They know what your habits are. They know exactly what ads to put in front of you. They know how to push your buttons when you're on Facebook to get an emotional response out of you, to manipulate you psychologically. And the government, with these new apps, they're taking it a step further than that, way further. That's what this is about, folks.
So the narrative is collapsing. Do you think the government, what they're doing now and keeping their stances even firmer, is it going to add fuel to the fire? Or do you think people will just get tired of this eventually and just forget about it?
The problem is Canada is so far down the road, and Canada, I think, is one of the countries that has been so compliant. It has become sort of the test model for the rest of the world. And Justin Trudeau has been so successful in implementing these measures. And the premiers have been so successful. And they're all in league. We have a uniparty across the country now. So do you think they're going to let that go easily? Do you think? I fear that even if the truckers are successful here and freedoms are restored, the charter is restored even, it just becomes, they're just going to implement more measures, other measures in different ways. It's already in place now. And so even if they say, okay, well, you don't have to wear your mask anymore, they've got that app on the phones. They've got everybody vaxxed up and compliant. And
well, not only that, Ontario is going to be implementing, if they haven't already yet, digital ID, where your driver's license and your health card. I don't know about the other provinces, but I do know that they're working on that one.
Even in Saskatchewan, Brenden, I saw today where the government of Saskatchewan, where they're saying that they're ending the mandates, they're going to be ending it. They've issued a public tender for companies to bid on implementing their digital tracking system. It's still being implemented.
Are you talking about driver's license, health card, that type of thing?
Yeah, I only saw the requests for quotes from companies to do this.
Okay.
Technology firms, and I don't have all the details on it, but it laid it out very clearly that even though these mandates may be ending, the push toward this new world, I hate to use that phrase, it sounds so conspiratorial, but this new digital age where everybody's going to be tracked. Yes, I think your driver's license will be digital. Everything you do, they'll track every financial transaction you make. It's just, they're going to know every penny you spend and what you spend it on.
Well, apparently they took apart TikTok, and the amount of stuff it actually tracks is like bewildering. And it's like they have the technology to do this. They have the ability to do this. I am not downloading Justin Trudeau's Pocket Wellness app. I'm not downloading Ontario's digital ID app. I am not downloading anything coming from the government. Like, absolutely hell to the no.
You're right, Kay Adams. Everything about you will be in their system, and they can read you just like a Fitbit. In fact, the data from your Fitbit, they'll have that. They'll know if you have high blood pressure. They'll know if you watch porn. They'll know what kind of porn you like. They'll know. And if they decide that they don't like you and they want to target you for any reason, say you piss off the mayor, you piss off your member of parliament, he makes a phone call to somebody, the next thing you know, you're targeted. Maybe you just piss off a cop.
Yeah.
And they'll use that information against you. They can use it. It is a dystopian society. It's very Orwellian. It's scary as all living heck. I'll tell you that. It does scare me. And you might say, oh, I don't have anything to hide, so what's the big deal? Well, it's about privacy, man. It's about personal information. It's about medical information that you might find embarrassing. Maybe you don't want somebody to know about some medical condition you have because you find it embarrassing. You just don't want to know, somebody to know, because they might hold it against you. They might be prejudiced against you. They might be a bigot.
Even if you're not a bigot, they paint you to be one anyway.
Well, not you. Maybe, some people get the heebie-jeebies if they think you've got some illness, right? Like maybe you've got AIDS. Maybe you don't want people to know you have AIDS because maybe you're afraid that people might treat you differently and you don't want to be treated differently. You want to be treated like everybody else and live your life as normally as you can, just like everybody else. Everybody has something wrong with them at some point in their life. Nobody gets out of here alive, right? Maybe you don't want other people to know about your medical condition. But once you're on that app, suddenly these issues of privacy, they become a real issue because
we've seen that bad over the course of the pandemic. We've seen school boards and schools send out mass emails determining everybody's jab status. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like that, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. If it ever gets better at all, because if they're going to implement provincial digital IDs, then it's not going to matter anyway.
We are clearly at war. And there's a struggle right now, a battle between people who want to preserve or go back to what Canada used to be, which is a free society, and those who want to abolish rights as individuals in favor of a collectivist, communist style society. That is what is really going on. And if the communist, socialist, far left, extreme left worldview is realized here, there will be no more individual rights. You're not going to have your privacy. You're not going to have your freedom. You won't be allowed to do a lot of things without government permission. You're not going to be allowed to drive your car the way you want to drive your car. You're not going to be able to buy all the things that you just want to buy. This gets very deep, right? But that is really what is going on. And that's why these truckers are down there. They're fighting for what is left of Canada.
We have a brand new statement issued by GoFundMe. I just put it up in the share screen there. Here, let me get back to the page. Okay. GoFundMe supports peaceful protests, and we believe that was the intention of Freedom Convoy 2022 fundraiser when it was first created. We now have evidence from law enforcement that the previously peaceful demonstration has become an occupation, with police reports of violence and other unlawful activity. To ensure GoFundMe remains a trusted platform, we work with local authorities to ensure we have a detailed, factual understanding of events taking place on the ground. Following a review of relevant facts and multiple discussions with local law enforcement and city officials, this fundraiser is now in violation of our terms of service. Term 8, which prohibits the promotion of violence and harassment, and has been removed from the platform. Organizers provided a clear distribution plan for the initial $1 million that was released earlier this week, and confirmed funds would be used only for participants who traveled to Ottawa to participate in a peaceful protest. Given how this situation has evolved, no further funds will be directly distributed to the Freedom Convoy organizers. We will work with the organizers to send all remaining funds to credible and established charities chosen by Freedom Convoy 2020 organizers and are verified by GoFundMe.
And all donors may submit a request for a full refund until February 19th, 2022.
Pardon my French here, but qu'est-ce que fuck? What?
Well,
this
okay,
party
so we'll have to wait and see what the response is from the people who
Mayor
organized who organized the fundraiser. I know they have a lawyer, and we'll see what happens. That's $10 million. That's a kick in the pants to the protesters. They had enough money there to
hold out forever.
Well, to keep them going for quite a long time at the Ottawa protest. And now we see that those funds are not going to be flowing. They got that $1 million. So that's enough to keep them going for quite a while. But that's far short of the $10 million that was generated that the people wanted directed to the other people. And as I said from the very beginning, I think the very first day we were on air, I said that one of the first things they were going to do was go after that money. When you're fighting a war, a new form of warfare like this, the first thing you do is go after your enemy's money. And that is what they've done. They've frozen these funds, and I'm very interested to find out what the actual justification for that is. What is the evidence? What exactly is this unlawful activity they're talking about? And where exactly is the violence that apparently was supposed to come from these protesters?
I have a big problem with this statement here, so I've highlighted the section in which I have the problem. Following the review of relevant facts and multiple discussions with local law enforcement and city officials, this fundraiser is now in violation of terms of service, which prohibits promotion of violence and harassment and has been removed from the platform. Okay, so they've received evidence, but wouldn't it be illegal for the police to declare that they have evidence that this is funding violence without that going to like a court of law? Like, the police do not get to declare that the evidence is worthy of shutting this down without the court sanctioning it and saying it is so? Because the police only get to charge you. They don't get to indict you.
Well, this is a decision by GoFundMe based on information that they have been given by police. So, of course, police are supposed to be credible. And if you're an organization like GoFundMe, where you're handling huge sums of money, you tend to fall in line with what the authorities are telling you, right? So it is information that they've received from the authorities. They're acting on that, and they're trying to do what they think is right.
Well, I do sincerely hope that they run a lawsuit against GoFundMe on this one. GoFundMe has clearly, like, this money just doesn't sit there waiting for them. I'm sure it sits in a bank account somewhere collecting interest.
This is a very unusual case, and I'm sure there are more layers to this legally than we're privy to here. But there will likely, I would think, be a lawsuit coming on behalf of the people who organized the fundraiser, and I would think that they'll direct whatever lawsuit they have not just at GoFundMe, but probably at the municipality of Ottawa, at maybe the federal government, certainly at Ottawa Police, whoever provided this information, and dispute this in some way. But that, on my part, is pure speculation. And Carla joins us.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Yay. Hey, you were just talking about GoFundMe. I just got back to the room, I had 100 messages asking me about the GoFundMe. I haven't had a chance to really look at anything. Can you guys just give me like the Coles notes and catch me up a little bit?
Yep. Yeah, actually, I have the statement up here. We were just talking about it. It just came out moments ago. So
put my nerd glasses on.
Yeah. Well, I'll read it for you. Don't worry about that.
Okay, good.
So GoFundMe supports peaceful protests. And we believe that was the intention of Freedom Convoy 2020 when it was first created. We now have evidence from law enforcement that the previously peaceful demonstration has become an occupation, with police reports of violence and other unlawful activity. To ensure GoFundMe remains a trusted platform, we work with local authorities to ensure we have detailed, factual understanding of events taking place on the ground. Following a review of relevant facts and multiple discussions with local law enforcement and city officials, this fundraiser is now in violation of our terms and service. Term 8, which prohibits the promotion of violence and harassment, and has been removed from the platform. Organizers provided a clear distribution plan for the initial $1 million that was released earlier this week and confirmed funds would be used only for participants who travel to Ottawa to participate in peaceful protest. Given how this situation has evolved, no further funds will be directly distributed to the Freedom Convoy organizers, and you can get your money back if you request a full refund by February 19th, and they're going to look at providing the money to different charities that GoFundMe deems to be good.
So who's bought? I mean, someone's obviously paid out GoFundMe.
Well, the city officials and
sorry, what did you say? Somebody?
I feel like someone's paid them to do this.
No, I don't think so, Carla.
What do you think's happened? Tell me your take on it.
This is GoFundMe trying to, getting pressure on both sides, and this is a modern form of warfare we're dealing with, right? So today, even if you're talking about terrorist groups internationally, the first thing government will do is go after their funds. And if you're the US government, you can freeze funds through international banks. So, of course, they knew these guys had $10 million. They knew they could dig in for a long time with that kind of funding. They've made reference to the $800,000 a day in costs early on. They made it clear they were going to go after these funds. So what they've done is they have, and in today's news conference with the police chief in Ottawa, they identified charges being laid against someone with a gun who was on his way to the protest. They made reference to violence at the protest and arrests that have been made down there without real specifics or naming people or people who have been arrested. But because
or even a press conference, like I stated this already, every time the police in a community anywhere take away somebody's gun, they always put it up on a hoist and they take pictures of it.
They don't always. They don't. Not always.
Almost always.
But the point is, they've gone out and just like cherry picking the Terry Fox thing or the plant with the flag, right? Mm-hmm. They're finding justification to go after that funding, because police today stated that their goal is not just to keep people safe. The goal of the Ottawa Police Service is now to shut the protest down. That is a departure from just keeping people safe, because that is a political stance. They are responding possibly to pressure from the Prime Minister or municipal councillors or the mayor or other political forces, or maybe the police chief is just making that move on his own. Who knows?
I feel like he is.
It's a change, right? It's a change, and I guarantee you, he's been talking to the PM, and he's been talking to the Premier, and he's been talking to the mayor. He's been talking to all these guys, and they want this thing gone. And all they need is a complaint from one citizen to respond to the complaint. And all they need is one incident of violence to then say to GoFundMe, this is not a peaceful protest. There was an act of violence. These are not peaceful protesters. We did arrest someone with a firearm. And I guess they did. So that gives them justification to then put pressure on GoFundMe to shut this down, because there are likely laws in place, I'm sure there are, that prevent fundraisers for things that are not lawful.
Right.
So they're using lawfare. They're using these things as justification to go after the funds so that they can shut the protest down. That is what I said they would probably do from the beginning. That is exactly what they're doing right here. It's not really a surprise. And GoFundMe, being the kind of organization they are, they're woke to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they're falling into line, and they very likely need to, because if they don't, they would be leaving themselves open to legal action by the government for being an organization that facilitates the funding of activities that are not lawful. And that in itself would be illegal. So they have to do this because the government has done this. So that's what's going on. I'm not a lawyer. That's just my take on it.
Well, I think you've done a great job explaining it to me, and I have no words. I mean, you know, the police, I mean, just to touch on the little piece where they were saying that the police had a big issue, and I'm assuming they're meaning the ground police. Like, we're still getting the same response from the ground police. They're still really polite. They still say that it's a good thing. They're saying that it's peaceful when we're speaking to them. Like, it's all love with the police. They're high-fiving people, fist pumping people. So I'm wondering who in the police are.
We wanted to ask you about that, actually.
You have to understand, though, that down on the street level, your street cops, they've been awesome. And yes, their focus all the way along through this thing so far has been to just keep everybody peaceful, keep everyone safe, right? Mm-hmm. Don't stir the pot. Let's let people blow off their steam. Let them have their free speech for a while. But when the senior officers have the news conference they had today, they've laid the groundwork. They have the intelligence that they wanted to gather. They have the justification to do what they feel they need to do now, to not just keep people safe, but for whatever reason, they've decided that it's time to go in there and shut this down. And that is what they are going to do at some point. I would say to you, this will not happen tonight. It will not happen over the weekend because so many people are still coming. What they are doing here right now is they're moving barricades into place. They're going to exert more effort to control traffic and crowds down there.
You saw the barricades tonight, right?
We did, yes.
I didn't know,
Yes.
I hadn't seen them before. Of course, I hadn't been on that street, but
And the police chief said they were going to be moving those into place this weekend to prevent more trucks from moving into the downtown area. Fair enough. They want traffic control. They can do that. And justifiably so if they feel that's what they need to do.
Well,
But to shut this thing down, they will wait until there are as few people in the area as possible. They will target the people that they feel are key people and make arrests. They'll try to chop off the head of the snake and start towing things out of there. And then we'll see what happens. I feel myself, whatever they do, and I'm not saying police should or shouldn't do this, I'm very concerned that this approach will inflame things.
I do too.
This is what might cause conflict, cause violence. And as I said earlier, if there's violence down there, I don't know what's going to happen for sure. Nobody does. But right now, the way things look to me is if there's violence, it's on the cops. If there's bloodshed, that's on the hands of the chief of police.
100%. The people are so passionate down there. I mean, you can see the faces, you can see their smiles, you can see just in the people that I've spoken to, everyone has so much passion, the same passion that I have being down there. So, passion is an interesting thing because it can turn to rage too. So if they take this away, people aren't ready to give up this thing, this energy, this movement, and until they make change. And boy, if it goes the other way, that scares me.
Yeah, and Brenden, somebody did just mention that it's not GoFundMe alone that picks the charities, as you said.
It's not what I said. I read it's right here.
Yeah. He's just. There was a little twist of words the second time around where it made it sound like GoFundMe might get to pick the charities. No, they do it in conjunction with the organizers of the fundraiser.
It states explicitly, though, whatever charity is chosen by this is going to be verified by GoFundMe.
Yes, that's right.
Verified
so
by GoFundMe.
just to address that comment on the screen.
Wow, that's disappointing. It's more than disappointing.
Well, I'm worried now because you see the escalation, right? But it's not coming so much from the truckers' side, but because there is escalation on the government side, we might see escalation on the trucker side. And I just hope this doesn't get out of hand. I hope both sides keep cool heads. I hope that wisdom is in the air. And I hope everybody stays safe down there. I don't think anybody wants anybody to get hurt. No. But man, I'll tell you, you have to wonder what is in Justin Trudeau's head tonight when he knows all this is going down and he won't even talk to these people. He won't even come down there to try to defuse this thing. All the guy has to do is go down there and have a chat. Maybe he could do something. Maybe he could stop this from escalating to a point where somebody might get hurt. That's his job.
He wants the escalation.
Yes, he does.
He
I'm
absolutely wants that because then it fits his narrative. His narrative's crumbling and he knows it. So what better way to keep his narrative that we're haters, that we're terrorists, that we're violent, that we're racist? That's the way to do it, is to incite the violence. I mean, we've kind of known that that's going to happen, but at the core of his being, I believe Justin Trudeau wants us to be violent. He wants this to happen.
And we've seen that there were 1,000 counter protesters that were going to go down there this weekend.
I only saw 2 today. Now,
yeah.
I was in and out, and they were quite peaceful. If you looked at my video footage, it was just 2 people standing with very respectful signs. I can't remember what they said, but it was politely saying, end this.
We've had an entire week of a completely peaceful protest. They're not destroying things. They're not burning buildings down, as we've
Absolutely
seen
not.
a lot of these protests in the States. The police chief even went so far today as to compare what you guys are doing down there to the January 6th incident in the U.S.
Oh, come on.
Yep.
He certainly did.
Yep.
Oh, come on.
And he said that the police have been successful in preventing that. Now, I have a really hard time
The
believing
police are
that.
literally shooting the shit with the people. Pardon my French. They're literally socializing, fist pumping. You know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to get that on tape more. I'm going to focus harder on that because that's what needs to get out there.
I haven't seen. Have you seen anyone try to storm the Parliament buildings since when you've been there?
No.
Has anyone said anything to you about possibly storming the Parliament buildings?
No, the only one that I was afraid was going to storm anything was the girl I saw yesterday.
And she
You know?
assaulted you, and
Yeah, and she wasn't with us.
yeah, and
Because
she
was
assaulted
quite
us.
offended by my hat, right?
Yeah.
Because that's really the only thing I have on other than some Canadian mittens.
Now, I'm not saying everybody down there is an angel. I don't know
Oh,
who's
no.
there.
They
I don't
can't be.
know. No, you got a lot of people.
Neither do the organizers.
That's right.
Well, it's impossible to have that many people and not have a few people that are just a little bit aggressive. I mean,
Or maybe somebody with a mental health issue who's maybe a little bit loopy, who's maybe making stupid statements, right? We don't know who's down there.
The
There's
pandemic
always
has
going to
driven-
be that. It doesn't matter what kind of gathering you're in, any large gathering. I mean, heck, even at a bar pre-COVID, there's always one or two guys or people that are idiots. I mean, it's what makes the world colorful. I mean, we can't deny that they're going to be there, but I mean the overall, wow, well played, Justin Trudeau, well played, right into the hands that we thought he would, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the police chief of Ottawa came out and gave these inflammatory statements today, and so you're saying that you don't notice anything different with the police at all over the week?
I want to say I did, but I really didn't. I did notice there were less people today than I expected. Like I kind of expected. I mean, in the morning, I didn't expect a ton. But when I came back and then went back after lunch, I expected a bigger influx. And then 3:00 came, which is check-in time at most of the hotels. I expected around that 4:00 time to see a much larger crowd. And I didn't quite see that. I mean, I saw it growing, but I somehow expected, by the way that the hotels are booked, I thought we'd have this massive group down there tonight. Now, yeah, I do have to remember, people are traveling from everywhere. So they may be arriving later in the night. This hotel, every time I'm in the lobby, there's people checking in. Even my husband, he's not here yet. It's like he won't be here till after 8:30. Likely he won't want to go down, won't want to go down there at this time. So tomorrow's going to be a different thing. But no, it was that same, you guys, I don't know how much of my footage you saw. I was able to talk to quite a few people. I talked to some people from Ottawa today. I had a little handful of locals. They're down there supporting it. The locals, they're grateful that we're here. They want us to stay until this is done. They want it back. Now, of course, intermingled in there, you're seeing business as usual on a Friday afternoon. You're seeing the locals who aren't necessarily with the protest downtown doing business or whatever, because you can kind of tell by the way they're dressed, wearing their masks, not looking at anyone in the eye. Excuse me. And, but there's no aggression there. It's just that it's the same thing as it's been. So I don't understand. And I think it's just growing. People if you're immersed in this long enough, it becomes part of who you are. And I think I the new word I've been I've been using is it's intoxicating.
Yeah. Well,
they
we'll
can't
see what
take
happens,
my joy.
right?
I don't care. They are not taking my joy. They took it for 2 years. They can't have it.
I hope.
I know.
I'm just praying, right?
Right.
Yep.
That's all we can do.
That's all we can do.
Let's think. Okay, so let's think about how this whole thing started. I mean, it was an idea. What was it? Less than a month ago This was just
Yeah.
an idea. They planned it in less than a month. They got the GoFundMe money very quickly. Hopefully, the organizers can switch gears, that they can put their heads together tonight, have some kind of meeting, switch gears, find a way. You know, it is, I don't know if it was one of you guys that said, but basically what's happening here is we're playing a huge game of chess, right? So let's see what their strategy is. Maybe they're going to come up with something.
Well, it is a peaceful revolution, as you said. It's a new form of warfare. It's information warfare. It's warfare by protest. It's warfare by lawfare. It's all of these different things coming into play, right? And it's warfare by politics.
Right.
And that's what Justin Trudeau is afraid of. He's afraid of losing his power.
Well, we've been in war essentially for 2.5 years, right?
Yeah.
This has been a psychological, a political, and a spiritual war for 2.5 years.
Exactly. And this is the front line.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how the war is being fought in the open. This is what's visible, right?
Yeah.
But then you've got all these layers underneath it. The GoFundMe thing, the seizing of the money, the tactics now being laid out by police, where they're going to start, using bylaws to ticket people, right? Because they're saying it's not lawful. Well, I guess technically in many ways it's not. It's lawful to protest, but I suppose it's not lawful to park your truck on the street in violation of a city bylaw.
It was pretty chaotic, that one little section that I found near my little golden nugget.
So are they justified in going down the street and handing out a bunch of tickets and then having them towed? I suppose they are, because it's against the law to park there. So they
sounds like they have declared this an occupation and not a protest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how long did it take them to get rid of everybody on Occupy Wall Street? Anybody remember?
No, I don't remember how long it took.
Was it?
But I remember a lot of other protests that took place where, there have been occupations in front of government buildings where police have let it, and municipal authorities have just let it sit. They haven't done a thing about it. Depends on what the cause is, right? Whether they support it or not. I remember when everyone was told just to stay the F home, and there were laws against assembling outside in large numbers. They completely waived that to allow protests because of the George Floyd incident and the BLM marches. And they said, well, the BLM march is about public health. It's a public health issue, so we have to allow that. But boy, if you went to a park with your kid to play on a swing set, you'd get arrested. And they were putting fences around trees because you might get a COVID from the bushes from the trees in downtown Toronto. They literally did that.
How about the Durham police? What was it? It was just not even, I don't even think it was a month ago. Was it Durham or was it Kitchener or Hamilton? It was Hamilton, Kitchener, or Durham. I can't remember which, because there's just so many things that happened. There was a group of 5 people gathered, and they were handing out tickets because they shook hands. Tickets.
Yes.
The police, the bylaw officer handed a ticket to someone for shaking hands, but I mean, let's think about this. He's handing the ticket. He's in the same close contact, because it was about the 6-foot rule. He was in the same close contact as the 2 gentlemen that were shaking hands.
I can't remember where I saw this. I don't remember where I saw this. It was either Australia or something. They had a 6 feet stick and would walk around and making sure everybody's standing 6 feet apart. It's like, this is insane.
That's laughable.
That is laughable. This whole thing is laughable. It's like, oh, the magic number is 6 feet. Ooh.
Well,
I can see the virus. Go ahead,
part of the tragedy in this is that public trust in our institutions, like our health units, like our hospitals even, our healthcare system, our police services, public trust has been undermined, damaged severely. I hope the Ottawa police chief and the Toronto police chief this weekend, all police chiefs across this country, all senior officers, all officers. I hope they understand this. They need to treat all of this with a light touch because the world is watching.
That's right.
And people, public trust in policing in this country, whether it's from visible minorities or just any group, Christians, people in churches, they don't trust the cops anymore. They're afraid of them.
They shut churches down. I mean,
that's right.
They've come in and told them to close their doors and taken away their right to worship.
So now they're getting. So I sure hope they don't come down there in Ottawa and start busting heads, because what? It's not going to look good.
Well, and let's not forget we have Toronto tomorrow. I've got a friend of mine who's going to be at the Toronto protest, and the two of us are planning to go live, from Ottawa and him from Toronto, so we can do a little compare and contrast and see what's happening there. So, and I mean, I watched on the news last night I don't know, I think she was just a city councillor of Toronto. Like, they said, we've been watching what's been going on in Ottawa. We feel like we're better prepared. Wouldn't give up any of their tactics or their plans, of course, other than just the obvious. So I don't even know what's going to come from Toronto, how Toronto is going to react. So
the tone in Toronto,
something to watch.
The tone from the Toronto police chief seemed a little more even to me, but they did use some scare tactics. Brenden pointed out it was like fear mongering, because they kept saying, we're going to make sure that the hospitals are protected, and any effort to shut down the hospitals will be met with prosecution, and any hospital workers, there was a statement from the hospital.
Wear your street clothes, don't wear your scrubs, you're going to be harassed. Can I just speak to that? When, seriously, like in Sarnia, there was a small protest around the time that we were being fired. There was threatening of it when the mandates were coming down. It was in September. And there were, I don't know, maybe a handful of protesters, maybe 50 to 100 that marched around the hospital. I was going to go to that protest, and I wasn't fired yet, but I was sitting outside in my car, and I just, for some reason, I wanted to watch the protest. I was a little afraid to go to it because I was still thinking that I might be able to win this thing and keep my job at that point. So I thought, okay, don't rock the boat, be smart, just watch and see. So I literally watched these people, and I drove my car around it. Not a single protester spoke to any nurses at the hospital. If anything, their signs were saying, we support you, frontline nurses, frontline workers. And then somehow the next day in the Sarnia Observer and in Blackburn News, they were saying that the nurses were being harassed, that all of the staff were being harassed. And then a few nurses said that they were. And I'm thinking, I was around there. I didn't see you out there, and I'm pretty sure you didn't work that day. So I'm sorry, but I think that is a whole media-fueled thing. There has been nothing but support for frontline nurses forever. The nurses are actually a little upset that everybody's supporting the truckers now, which I think is ridiculous, because this is about the mandates. It's not about who deserves more support than the other. It's about whoever can get the job done.
Right.
The nurses could have stood. They could have stood, all of them, but they didn't.
Yep.
That's
right.
Sorry, I got a little heated there.
No, it needs to be said. This is the things that have been silenced for far too long, and these are the things that people need to know about, because it's okay if they go, oh, well, 2% of nurses at a hospital got fired. Ooh. So you read that, and it's easy to have no empathy for it, to not care.
And Fred Penner says there's too much support in the public. They can't stop people from just going down with stuff or money to give away, like is already happening. And so that reference to the public is important. Public support is important.
I was just thinking of that. There's thousands, like in every one of those food, when I come across those little food stands, I guess you want to call it, where they're giving out free food, you have the option to donate. And every single one of their donation buckets, like I watched somebody get a coffee in front of me today. The man literally handed them $50 for a cup of coffee. People are being generous because they know that it's going to the truckers. So I don't know. That's not going to a charity. It's not an organized charity. Maybe that could be part of their strategy. Maybe people will just start flowing the money. I don't know again,
Yeah.
but most of us have already donated. So how much more can we give, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't even like to choose sides. I'm on the side of truth. And I can see what's going on down there. And I can see what the politicians and the bureaucrats are doing. And I see what the media is doing. And a big part of what is going on right now is the smearing and the effort to find a way to undermine public support for this, because if you undermine public support, that gives the government and police more leverage and more justification to go in there and shut it down, right? So they're trying to win in the court of public opinion.
Why can't they just follow the hockey game, the tournament that's going on there for the Unity Cup?
Right.
I don't know. It's just, this thing just keeps snowballing, and it's I mean, when I'm looking at the compare and contrast to what's actually happening to what the media is saying.
I did notice something interesting last night. Sorry, Rick.
No, you go ahead.
I did notice something interesting. I realized that the Olympics is coming, and nobody's going to give a shit about that.
I told 4 people, hey, I said to 4 people today, hey, did you know the Olympics is going on right now? And they're like, come again? I didn't know, because
Not yet. It's
front and
coming.
center.
Opening ceremony is probably any day now. I can't remember. In fact, I don't even care, because
No, but they didn't even know that they were like coming, because this is frontline and center. This is world news.
Yeah.
They're like, where are the Olympics? And I'm like, oh, come on.
It's in China.
China.
In China. There'll be millions and millions and millions of people.
So when you were down there tonight, did you see, it looked like there were people bringing in fuel still?
They are. And it's, I like their little setup. They've got that little what do you call them? Quad that's with a trailer on the back, and they'll have different cans for diesel, and then they've got gasoline for the generators. I did see a few propane tanks. I actually had someone reach out to me from Sarnia who wants to come, and he said, I can bring a bunch of jerry cans, with diesel, gasoline, whatever they need, propane if they need it, I can bring propane. Just find out for me. And so, what the need is. So I did speak to the people who are going around with the jerry cans. And I said, listen, I met this guy. What is the need? And they said, we don't want to stockpile. Right now we're doing okay. We have what we need. Maybe if he wants to bring a few jerry cans of gasoline for the generators, that would be good. But it's really important to us that we don't stockpile. And I think that is because, if you're noticing, the media says, oh, it's so dangerous. They're stockpiling all of this, all of these flammable liquids, things like that. So so they're being mindful even of that. So yeah, they're still filling. I'm seeing more they're filling both the diesel and both gasoline for the generators. I spoke to a couple people who have been in their cars, and they've been sleeping in their cars. And I said, man, that must be so cold. And they're like, no, because they're providing me with gas so that I can keep my car running.
Unbelievable.
Just that unity. I mean, just that generosity, and that, taking care of one another.
And we keep hearing in the media and from the police chief today that people who live around there are really upset. They want this dealt with. The media is like, all the questions from the media today would suggest that Ottawa residents are completely against this and not supporting it at all.
We'll see who shows up to their protest tomorrow, right?
Right. But what we've seen on the other side is also people opening their homes, providing access to showers, food, bringing donations down to the truckers, right? And I did call a friend of mine who lives in Ottawa, and I asked him, what's the mood? What do people really think? And he said most people aren't even really paying any attention to what's going on with the truckers.
Right.
Because it's a political town. They've had a lot of protests there in the past.
Yeah, like this isn't new. I mean, okay, this protest is new, but protesting in Ottawa is not new.
Right.
No.
This one's
new. And if you live around Parliament Hill, you have to expect that at some point you might get a few protesters down there.
This might actually help with the housing crisis and bringing down the cost of some housing in downtown Ottawa.
Yeah.
Two birds stoned at once.
I think the housing prices are coming down anyway. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. Or at least the value.
Well, so
yeah,
what
like
do you,
so
what
it's still the same vibe, guys. It's still that. Like I said, I'm just waiting for more people. I got to talk to people from Ottawa. You'll see that I interviewed them, and they're there for the same reason we are. They're grateful that we're here. They're saying, please don't go until the job is done.
Imagine if he went down there and played some street hockey. Yes, Justin Trudeau should go down there and play some street hockey.
The hockey. I finally found the hockey. So I came across it. It was a little further down the road, and I hadn't been down there in a day or two. So I took the extra steps, and I'm like, what is that crowd? And there they were playing street hockey. I found it. They've been playing at tournaments, East against the West, the whole time. Someone who's part of the protest, in their hotel room, they went and got 2 silver garbage cans, 2 different sizes, nice shiny silver garbage cans, and they put them, they made a trophy like a Stanley Cup, but they're calling it the Unity Cup. They've got Sharpie pens all around it. People are signing it. It is it's worth millions probably, because it's historical. Everybody's going to want that cup, right?
Yeah.
That Unity Cup. So they're actually having a hockey tournament. And right now it's neck and neck, the East against the West, in case anyone cares.
Well, that's very Canadian.
It's very Canadian. Everything about this is very Canadian. And the only anti-Canadian thing that's going on is happening with our government officials.
Well, no wonder they want to bring in the military.
They aren't bringing in the military.
Yeah, I don't think they will either.
I think if they were going to bring them, they would have brought them. Honestly. The military don't do policing.
Well,
that's what they say, but the military follows orders.
True.
So if you have a leader who makes bad decisions, I hope they don't bring the military.
Donald Trump for prime minister, then. He supports us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They kept saying that he was going to bring in the military, and he didn't bring in the military to quell the protests that he had. He never used the military against his own people. So I hope they don't here either, because that could be very bad. They don't have the military doesn't have just a safety first training background, right? They approach things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that the focus just remains on safety. That's
exactly. Me too.
Yeah. We need to keep it there.
And every speech today, they were taught, like, whenever an organizer was speaking, they continue to remind people, look, we need to stay peaceful. If you see anyone or anything, it's your job it's expected. We want you to just be, kind to them, show them love, that kind of thing. They did address, look, and don't drink while you're here. No partying, like drinking at night. Try not to do that. Number one, it's not healthy it's really quite dangerous to drink, copious amounts of alcohol in these temperatures outdoors. Like it's just, you're asking for problems with that. But also they said, it's just going to give the police a reason to give tickets, and they will give tickets. So if you do have a drink, make sure you're not showing open liquor, things like that. So they're kind of just keeping everybody up to speed and just really reiterating the concept of respect and the concept of, keeping it peaceful. So.
And I think we've seen that with people cleaning up garbage. And is that continuing to go on there? And
Absolutely.
Snow removal?
Absolutely. Let me tell you something. I'm not even seeing people smoke cigarettes, dump them on the ground and step on them. They're going over to the snow. This is what I'm seeing. They're going over to the snow, putting them out so that they're out, and then putting them in the garbage. They're not putting cigarette butts on that ground. Tell me, when has that ever happened?
In the media reports that I've seen, people are supposed to be complaining about garbage all over the streets and people defecating on the streets.
We didn't see any garbage.
There is I'm very careful to look down at my steps where I'm walking, trying to pan the area. I'm walking all over the area. I mean, I don't know how many steps I did today. I haven't checked it, but I am walking a lot. Are you seeing garbage in any of the footage that you're seeing from me or anyone else?
No.
No, because it's not there. It doesn't exist. Yes, there are, neat piles of garbage bags that have been collected and put into a pile. And, so I think that they've been using those four-wheelers as well to try and drive them out and bring them to an area where they can dump them. So yeah, that takes time, right? Because we're not seeing, we're not seeing big garbage trucks come in and pick it up, but it's neat. It's organized.
So they have, is the city picking any of that stuff up, or are they doing anything down there?
I think they're kind of pulling it out of the area, maybe for the city to pick up, because a city truck really, a garbage truck couldn't get into the area properly, right?
Right.
So, but I think that they're collecting and moving the garbage, like the piles of the bags, and bringing them out to an area quite possibly where a city truck could pick them up.
So they have $1 million that was released. So that gives them still a substantial amount of money to keep things
Depends
going
on how
down
many
there,
trucks.
right?
Depends on how many trucks.
Right.
Okay. Well, look at the people that are donating. Like this guy that I spoke to today, he, if everyone would donate a little bit of diesel and a little bit of gas, that would take up quite a bit,
Yeah.
Giving them the raw materials rather than the funding, that might be the way to do it, right? Because they can't, they can't really go after what they're not going to go after. Like, I don't know how many gallons of gasoline or propane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe if people, instead of, handing the funds, maybe give them the fish, kind of, so to speak,
Well, see, the police chief also said during the news conference that they had been he says that they're trying to cut off the food, the water, and the fuel.
How are they going to cut it off when we're bringing it in and donating it?
I don't know.
Are they going to come and steal it?
And people, and so the reporters said they had observed or had heard that some officers were bringing, food, sandwiches, and facilitating the delivery of these food, fuel, and water. And so the police chief said if he finds out if any officers have been involved in facilitating that they'll be investigated, and he won't tolerate it.
These good citizens are also offering the police officers coffee, hot chocolate, food. They're not all taking it, but they're offering it.
Yeah.
The police, I really believe that those police that are on the ground do not have a problem with the protesters. I would even speculate that a lot of them wish they could be protesting. I'm speculating. What people say, oh, well, they're vaccinated. Of course they're not. This is not vaccinated against unvaccinated. These people, they have to remember that many, many, many people were coerced into vaccination so that they could, so that they could get their, so they could keep their job. My hotel number's ringing, so I'm just gonna kind of go out for a second, okay?
Sure, no problem. I'll just
No, I was just looking. The typical capacity for a transport truck or an 18-wheeler is 120 to 150 gallons. So let's take the low number, turn it to liters.
Yeah, and I don't know how much a truck burns when they're just sitting there idling to keep heat in the cabin. I don't know enough about it to know.
I don't think it burns that much.
What do you think so what do you think we're going to see over the weekend, Carla?
She went to answer her phone. I was just going
There you go. You're unmuted now. I can hear you now.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
You're back.
Okay. I mean, judging by the talk about all the hotels being booked, assuming that they're booked with actual people, and the rumors that the government has booked hotels for them, have booked out the hotels, I'm assuming large crowds. I am expecting that there will be some counter protesters there. I'm hoping that they're the same, if it's the same vibe as the ones that came today. I mean, there were two and possibly more. I wasn't quite sure. There was quite a crowd up in front of the Parliament building, near where the Eternal Flame used to be eternal. They were over there. And then there were two protesters standing there with signs. There was another gathering. I don't know if they were connected, but regardless, it was quiet and peaceful. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I do expect a bigger influx of people. I expect that there are going to be agitators out there, and so does everyone else who's there. So we're kind of ready for that. We had a little practice with the couple that were around, you know. I expect more dancing. I expect more speeches. I expect more people yelling freedom. I expect more generosity. I expect people being more Canadian.
More horns?
Oh, and lots of horns. Listen, they're getting so good at it. They're forming an orchestra. Have you noticed when you're hearing now they've learned to play tunes together? They're actually writing music because they're getting really good at it, right?
I don't know. All I know is I haven't been sick of hearing it.
Exactly.
Like at all. Every
Yeah,
time
my
I hear it,
husband's here.
just sounds like freedom. So I'm fine with it. Like I could listen to it all day and all night.
Me too. Me too. It's the sound of freedom. Exactly that.
Yeah. And if there's a message you would like to send to JT tonight, what would you like to say to the Prime Minister, Carla? Because you've got the floor.
Oh, why do you put me in the hot seat like this? Okay, Carla, keep it clean, keep it clean, keep it clean. Justin Trudeau, you have 24 hours to come and respond to these people. We are not going anywhere. You can take our money. You can try to incite violence, but we are Canadians. We are the real Canadians. I think it's time you become a Canadian. Step out of, get out of where you are and come and speak to the people. This isn't going to end until you come and speak to us. I don't know. I don't know what else to say to him.
Yeah.
That was the best I could do, because given the events that I came onto this podcast with what he's doing and how he's playing war, I have to really let that marinate with me before I can come up with anything to say to him that's going to be respectful, kind.
Well, I've had some pretty harsh words for him.
Just come out of your hole, man, and let's get this going. The sooner he does that, the sooner we can end it, and the sooner we can go. Get rid of the mandates, because they're not going to stop. He might shut this down, but I'm telling you, it's just going to happen again, because he's forgetting this is worldwide. If we've inspired the world and we don't win, they're going to revolt too. And then pretty soon we're just going to come up with a new thing. It's just going to crop up in another city. So just shut it down, man. And do it the right way. Be a leader. There.
Be a man.
Be a man. Pull up your pink socks and be a man.
It's an opportunity for him right now to, do the right thing. Be the Prime Minister the Canadians need.
That's right.
They need you right now. Your people need you, and your people are down there honking their horns. Those are your people. They're not your enemy.
Right. And if he would come down and maybe, come down incognito. Maybe he could paint a black face or something. I don't care how he does it. Put on some kind of one of his costumes.
Yeah.
Come down and walk through the crowd and see what being a Canadian is, and then maybe he could learn a thing or two. In fact, I think he should bring his friend Doug Ford too. Because I live in Ontario, that's why I'm thinking of Doug Ford, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I can't speak for every province.
Premier. Yeah.
Well, he could identify as a skinny guy. No one would notice him.
That's right.
Well,
they can identify as protesters. Come on down.
Yeah. Well, we've been on for, again, over 3 hours tonight. And
I promised I was going to be quiet tonight. Sorry, guys.
No,
you're good.
You're fantastic. The only reason people watch is to get to the end so that they can get to you.
Oh, come on. You guys are the pros.
You kidding me? Look at these comments. Carla's awesome. Carla's great. We love
I'm
Carla.
blind and old.
Yeah, no, it's all about you, man. It's like, get Rick and Brenden
Well,
off.
maybe those people can teach me how to overcome my challenges, technological challenges. I'm very excited. My husband brought me an external mic today. I don't know how to use that. Somebody told me that I can get this actual battery pack so I don't have to keep coming back to the room to charge my phone. I didn't know that happened. I started a YouTube channel so that I could do live so that Facebook couldn't censor me. I have no idea how to do it. I keep trying to go live. It keeps telling me I can't figure it out. pretty soon Facebook's going to shut me down. So I need some help. Anyone, I'll take all advice.
Well, if you run into any roadblocks, just call me. I'll set you up.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Guys,
Yeah.
I just can't tell you how much I appreciate all the love from you guys and the fact that you I'm really blessed and honored to be on your show. It's a perfect ending to my days. I love being able to share with you. I learned so much from you guys, so thank you.
Well, you're sharing with a lot of people.
And everybody out there.
Yeah, people in other countries. I see some of the numbers on our screen, but I don't see them all. And I can see that we have another record audience tonight. Interest is peaking on this, and we're going to get even more people over the weekend, I'm sure, because people are concerned, people are worried, people are also optimistic, and they are full of hope.
That's the most important thing. Everybody needs to keep the hope, keep the optimism, because the minute that we start to get, that we let anxiety take over and we become pessimistic, we're going to lose this thing. So hope never fails. Love never fails. Just stay with it. Just hold the line.
Yeah.
Hold the line.
And if the cops do come and start getting a little heavy-handed, hopefully you guys just give them a great big bear hug.
That's right.
Don't do that.
Well,
Don't do that.
I will give him a big bear hug. I've also learned to walk pretty fast in my boots. I'm going to run. Just kidding.
The suspect approached me with open arms and with declarations of violence. I, out of fear for my life, discharged my service weapon. Don't do that.
Well, we just want everybody to, stay safe. You guys stay safe. All those police officers have families at home and kids and wives and brothers and mothers and dad. Just everybody's just stay safe.
Right.
Stay safe.
And be kind.
That's
be
right.
Canadian.
Thank you, Carla. We're going to sign off.
Have a great
All right.
night, guys.
All right.
Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Super awesome. She is fantastic. And every night we come back to her and she leaves us feeling good. So
yeah. I feel pretty good about tomorrow anyway, because we got more fires and not enough water to hose it out. So
another day for Canadians to go down there and show the good side of Canada, and keep things positive, and hopefully something constructive comes out of all of this. That's what we're hoping for. And with that, I guess I'll throw it over to you to start the sign off, Brenden.
All right. I'm Brenden Kennedy, the host of the Flow of Discourse podcast, signing off for the night, and I will see you tomorrow.
And I'm Rick Walker with Maverick News and Maverick Multimedia, and you've been watching Freedom Convoy 2022, cruising to the Capitol. We will be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. on these social media channels. Please like and subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. It would certainly help us out and help us keep this thing going. And the world is watching. See everyone tomorrow. Thanks for watching.